Hey, what's going on? Hi, welcome to the program. It's the Jeff Gerstmann Show. It's a podcast for Tuesdays here on the internet where video games are discussed. And I'm joined this week by Ben Pack. Ben, how's it going?
It's great. In case people forgot, I had to prove that I know game.
Yeah.
Because I have a controller.
You have a controller. It's plugged in with a cable.
It is. Wireless gaming is out. Sorry, Switch 2.
Yep, that's right. Dock those switches.
That's right.
Docking is what it's all about for 2025. Everyone knows that. It's funny because I actually just went wireless for a little bit there because I like to stay off trend.
Which is on trend.
Which is very on trend. Yes.
Right.
But I have one of these 8-bit DOE controllers with the TMR joysticks and all the other. And I was like, I never really used this thing because I don't think it's as good as the PlayStation 5 controller I've been using. And so I figured like, I'll mess with this thing and it's okay. I don't know. You can use it.
I used an 8-bit DOE leverless fight stick over the weekend and was moderately impressed.
Yeah, that thing's not super expensive too,
yeah, right. For an affordable solution, solid.
Yeah. I still have I put it away. But I still have my leverless. I'm just not playing any fighting games currently.
Yeah, we get together like once every 3 months and go, let's play some fighting games, my fighting game friends. And then we spend 2/3 of the time trying to remember how to do all the moves, and then play a little bit.
So wait,
for real.
It's down and then quarter, so I'm going down and then down forward, and then what do I do?
Turn around.
Okay.
360 moonwalk away.
Got it.
We're talking about Moonwalker, right?
Yeah. The only game I play with a leverless is Moonwalker. You want that extra level of precision. You need that kind of frame perfect input. You need to
if
just
you want to do
defend.
a bubble skip.
Yeah. Absolutely. Ben Pack, how have you been doing? What have you been up to? How's life? What's yeah. Woo!
The graphics are blazing.
Not about sum it up.
Yeah. Nice. Nice.
Yeah, I've been out here. I've actually, the biggest thing going on right now in my life is trying to get these damn cats out of my yard.
What are the cats doing that need, are they pooping there? Are they,
they had babies.
Oh, yeah, okay. So that's a lot of cats then.
Yeah, so maybe about a month ago at this point, my partner was just like, I was out of town, and my partner texted me and was like, hey, you remember how we've been seeing these 2 cats kind of come in and go in? I was like, yeah, I thought they were the neighbor cats. And they're like, no, in fact, we have kittens. And so it's been this process of trying to get them trapped so they can get, spayed and dewormed and all of that. I've been working with local shelters for the best way to do it. But it's just been I've really kind of am entering an era of my life that's I'm getting back to my roots, and by my roots I mean hunter-gatherer type shit.
Yeah.
I think I've mastered the art of animal handling, and I'm ready to try and take it to the next level.
Snakes. Great. Yeah.
Honestly, I've always thought it would be cool to pick up a snake. You get in there on the neck,
right?
And then you can hold its head and go
check out this weird snake. Look at me, I'm the weird guy holding a snake. Yeah, I don't know, man. Yes, I agree with you, but I don't know that I want to. I don't know that I need to be that weird. I don't know that I need to be that out there. My mom is she's into spiders.
And so, what do you mean by into?
She's got a tarantula.
Okay.
In a in a cage or something, or in a aquarium, a glass thing. And has had a handful of spider, black widows and stuff like that. Because working at a tire shop, there's a lot of black widows that just kind of hang out back in the tires. And so you find yourself just encountering spiders, and you're like, well, why not bring them? Why not take these ones in? Much like with the cats, you work with a local shelter, get them spayed, all that other stuff.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
actually, what With spiders, there's an egg sac that happens every so often, and then you have to pull it out and be like, okay, we need to spray this thing with Raid before it hatches into a billion black widows that are small enough to fit through the air holes in this cage, you know. And
Raid is smart. We had some spider eggs and some outdoor furniture we found, and I was just using like a little one of those long lighters to try.
Oh,
to,
sure, yeah.
And I truly felt monstrous.
Yeah,
I am burning babies right now.
Yeah, yep, yeah. It's messed up. It's all of it is messed up. That's if you really want to get to the next level of animal handling, you have to confront some very dark truths about the order.
Yeah.
So are you keeping these cats, or are you thinking about like getting them? Is the shelter going to end up with these cats, or?
So apparently it's kitten season, which is a thing I've learned about. Like spring, summer, early summer is like really when there's a big explosion of kittens. So all the shelters are really booked up. We got 2 of them taken care of, being held by my partner's parents, who's working with a shelter out there to get them. It's temporary. We're still trying to. We've got like a couple people who are maybe interested. I would be interested in maybe keeping one. Problem is, we also have a like 11-year-old dachshund who's gonna have to learn to get along with a kitten, which could be fun. It could be really like I could monetize the shit out of that. I think on Instagram, like start with some cute posting and then like hit up all the sponsors. I got that. I need to monetize everything. There've been some
about the hustle.
in my life.
Yeah. Yes, it's all about the grind. If you're not in that kitten grind set, then I don't know how you expect to survive what's about to happen, to society. So it's smart.
How can I apply my kitten grind set to the coming challenges and devolution of society? And the answer is very carefully.
Mm-hmm. Have you considered using AI agents to perhaps find ways to get these cats into homes and
At Grok, what should I do with these kittens? Reply from Grok: kittens can be very cute, but also very dangerous. You should probably put them in a sack and throw them in the river.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know. I think, and then, if you press it, it'll be like, well, okay, are the cats white?
I'll be like, well, one of them is.
I was like, okay, well, that, Grok thinks that kitten has a chance.
Nah, man, Grok is woke.
Yes, sorry, I forgot that Grok is woke.
The phrase of our time.
Yeah, that's the undoing of humanity will all somehow come back to the phrase. Well, Grok was woke,
There have been 50 meetings, each an hour, with between 4 and 15 people, all dedicated to making Grok less woke.
Yep. At least.
At least. And that is fun to think about.
Yeah, it's we're doing
having to pretend to care.
Yeah.
You're like you're like an engineer. You're like not even a manager. You're just like one of the better engineers around, and they pull you into this meeting, and they're like, "We need real ideas on how to make our AI less woke." And you're like, "Okay, well, can you like define what woke is?" I was like, "Well, it's like citing data and articles.
It's using." Facts, what they call facts, to discredit the truth, what we know is the truth. Oh man, yeah. Over here, it's been kind of, it's summertime, and so the kids have been home from school, and well, only my daughter is in school. She's going to go into first grade coming up here, and then my son will start preschool, but. Having all 3 of them around and running around and getting up to trouble, kids get bored. I don't know. Like as an only child, I would kind of just make my own fun all the time and just be like, well, my parents are working all the time anyway, so I just kind of got used to being like alone, and thinking about pinball, just sitting in a corner thinking about pinball or whatever. And they're like, "What are we gonna do today?" And you're like, I don't know. I was gonna maybe try to play Death Stranding too. No, I don't know. Well, I don't know. Let's hang out back and we'll shoot each other with water guns. And then an hour later, you're like, okay, now what? Oh shit.
Well, have you gotten your oldest started on like the ChatGPT grinds? Because going into first grade, she's going to be at a huge disadvantage if she isn't able to ask a computer what the animals in a zoo are.
Yeah, I mean, she said, "Daddy, I want to be a prompt engineer," and I said, "Good, okay, you're going to survive if that's what you want to be when you grow up." And so, we've been working at all that stuff to make sure that she knows exactly how to type the stuff in, to make sure she's getting the right answers. If you know what I mean. The right answers. A friend of the family was she has kids who are slightly older, and they're like 11 or something like that. And near the end of the school year, they had a book report. I think it was on the Mayans or something, and she was like, "And I don't know anything about the Mayans," and so I was like, "ChatGPT to the rescue!" And like they did all their research with I don't think the AI wrote the paper. But she was like, "I didn't know anything about the Mayans, so instead of just typing anything into the internet and finding it or like an encyclopedia or anything, she was like, I just typed it into this thing, and then we read that and then wrote that." I was like, and I was in the other room, I was just like overhearing it, and it took everything I had to just go, "Nope, I'm going to sit right here. I'm not going to get up and go and I'm not going to get into this I'm not going to go be a part of this conversation. I'm just going to sit right here and be like, oh boy." Yeah, so that's been the thing. No, my daughter's exposure to the internet is basically zero. It's like Nintendo trailers, and that's about it. But somehow, over the last month, she has brought the word "bruh" into the home. Bruh. And now my son is saying it too, and the baby is about to start saying it any moment now. I can feel
First
it.
Words.
And it's terrifying because like people are like, "Oh, that's why you can't have your kids watching these YouTube, Roblox, Twitch, whatever." And I'm like, "No, they don't watch any of that shit." But some other kids' parents have different standards than we do, and so it's still found its way into the home. And it's like, how do you? I don't know how to fight it. Like I never like this. I think maybe every generation probably goes through this. I thought like, oh man, we were so fucked up and just into just the dumbest, grossest shit, and just all the fucking videos of people pooping I've seen. Just like the internet's been a nightmare for a long time.
Yes.
Like you've been exposed to so much that you're just like, it's nothing. There's nothing that these kids will ever be able to do that could ever like annoy me and then all it took was this. And it was like, oh, right. No, they will always find a way. There will always be something. And it turns out it's bruh. And I was like, I was talking to my wife. I said, well, like what's now? Are they going to be doing the Vine boom next? Or like, what are we, I thought maybe we should expose them to, oh my God, something nice.
That's right. I mean, you can, there's a path in, like when I was a kid, I was watching YouTube poops and saying lots of spaghetti, and I'm sure my parents were going through the same thing. But I think the difference is it moves so much faster now, and it like there are more pathways to really dumb dark shit from
right. Yes.
Like back in the day when you watched a YouTube poop, it would recommend like 3 other YouTube poops, and you would watch one of those maybe, and that'd be the end of it. Now it's like, I feel like it's a 50-50 chance you're ending up on some like demented AI generated video.
Or it's like, here's a YouTube poop, and now it's like, would you like to hear the words of Jordan Peterson? You're like, what? No, what? Jesus Christ.
But he's like a cat, and there's like doing Subway Surfers under him, and yeah. No, I work part-time with kids, and it's funny watching things come back into style, or like rickrolling is still so prevalent and strong. And I'm like, that's so strange how like that persisted, right? Or like bruh is obviously huge. Chicken jockey starting to die out because it's been, the Minecraft movie's old. Like
my daughter said chicken jockey before she had seen the movie. Like she came home from school and just said, "You're a chicken jockey," and I was like, "What did you say?" No, she didn't know what it meant. She didn't know anything. And then she saw the movie. We watched the movie not too long ago. And like the kids were like remotely excited by that, but it wasn't like a big deal. And like watching it, have you seen a Minecraft movie?
I have seen a Minecraft movie.
I was surprised by how, like, I don't get why that part is a big deal. In a movie full of fucking nonstop nonsense, that's a part that people are like, oh, chicken jockey. It's like, okay, sure.
It just all built up before the movie even came out of like top 5 moments from the trailer for, you know, it's like I Am Steve, Chicken Jockey, Lava Chicken, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Really fun and funny and great movie though. Otherwise, like I'm really glad Jason Momoa is out there doing his thing.
I came away from it going like, you know what, this movie's totally fine.
It was fine.
Yeah, it was just like
it could have been so much worse.
Yeah, totally. And you know, I don't know. There's some bits in there that you're like, okay, yeah, sure, this is okay. Like faced with the prospect of we've got to make a movie around Minecraft of all things. I think that like they did an okay job of it. It's like a little weird. I think the whole thing of like having a guy who is like a washed up video game champion just seems like it's like that's the part most of all that I'm like, this just seems weird, like a weird way to go with it.
Right.
Like it you know, written by committee or whatever, but like, you know, you just go, yeah, you know, sure, whatever.
I feel like that could work in a scenario where like if they made like a sequel to The Wizard,
yeah,
where he's kind of like a, you know, disgruntled, washed up gamer guy, and he has to reconnect with like a kid who's getting into video games. Like I think you could make a fun story out of that, but it just seemed like it like didn't really have any bearing on the plot. Like he was that guy. Like
he was just a down and out guy who happened to have played video games or whatever. I mean, at least they didn't go, you know, there's so many directions they could have gone with that of just like, I don't know, he's a washed up video game guy and he runs a hot sauce business and sues people all the time. You know, like there's just like a lot of weird shit they could have done there.
You won't believe what flag he's wearing.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I thought that thing was okay. But like it came and went very quickly. Like we watched it like twice. And normally when the movies hit big around here, they're on for like a week straight. And it's just like, I've seen Frozen 2 maybe more than any other movie now, in my life. And, it's terrible. It's a terrible movie. So yeah, like we watched Minecraft like 3 times and then it was kind of done. And there was a brief period where they were like, well, can we play Minecraft? But they're just not, neither of them are ready for first person controls at this point. And so it just becomes, you know, like I hand it to them and they go, check this out. And they look at it and go like, what do I do? And it's like, that's a really interesting question. That's the right question to ask.
Yeah.
But like, man, we don't, okay. Go punch this tree. And they're like, no, I don't want to do this. I had to uninstall Sonic Superstars from the PlayStation 5 because I can't anymore. My son saw it and we hadn't played it in months and he saw it like, let's play Sonic. And the thing he does is I hand him the controller, he runs to the right until he can't anymore, and then he hands it to me, and then I'm playing Sonic fucking Superstars. And I'm like, I hate this. And I'm telling myself, and I feel terrible because I was like, I don't like this. He's like, no, you do. I was like, no, I really don't.
No, Dad, we're having a good time.
We are having a good time, but we should play something else, anything. No, I want to beat this level. I was like, okay.
My version of that growing up was Super Mario World, which is a lot better. Yeah. I had to hand that to my dad because I couldn't make a jump or whatever. He was like, oh, cool, I'm playing Mario.
Right. Yeah. It's a pretty good time. And that's, I don't know, that's on me ultimately, but I also have played a fair amount of like Super Mario Wonder all over again and some of the like new Super Mario 3D world
Bowser's
new
world of fun.
Yeah. I played a bunch of that all over again because my daughter was playing it, but yeah, that stuff's been crazy. And they're going into different camps and stuff, so they'll be around and then not around and around and not around. But I am waiting for the right time to sit them down and go, okay, it's time to play the new Mario Kart, because I have not told them that we have it, because they've been very naughty lately. And it keeps pushing the date back a little bit.
Just like, they're saying bruh too much.
Yeah, too much bruh. If we can even out on the bruh. Like my son will just be sitting there, just playing, doing something himself, and just quietly, and then he'll just go, bruh. And I'm like, fuck. terrifying. It's terrifying. But it's great. I don't know. Like, I actually secretly really love it. Like in a weird way. I'm just like, this is crazy. Like, what an insane situation I've found myself in with these kids, and them saying bruh, and me having to navigate like turning these people into people that do more than that.
During the break, you can put them on. I'll teach them some new words.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, let's.
They'll never say bruh again with the words I'm teaching them.
Great. I love it. Let's actually take a quick break here. And then we'll come back. We'll talk about Death Stranding 2, which is a video game. Be right back. It can be a hassle to get to the doctor. I don't think that's a controversial statement. You know, you get your doctor, you try and get them on the phone. And then that takes forever sometimes. And by the time you get someone who is aware of the appointment schedule, they're like, oh, well, maybe we can see in, how about 6 weeks? You're like, I've got a sore throat now. My eye is itchy now. I've got this weird rash right now. Like by the time their schedule clears up, you're either going to have gone to urgent care or it's going to, cleaned up on its own or whatever. We've all been there. But thanks to ZocDoc, there's no reason to delay. There's no reason to just throw up your hands and give up, because they make it easy to find and book a doctor who's right for you. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors and click to instantly book an appointment. This is in-network appointments, so you can filter down to your insurance and all that other stuff. They have more than 100,000 doctors across every specialty: mental health, dental health, primary care, urgent care, and more. So you can filter for doctors who take your insurance. They're located nearby, a good fit for whatever you've got going on, and are highly rated by verified patients. Once you find the right doctor, you can see their actual appointment openings. Choose a time slot that works for you and click to instantly book a visit. And appointments made through ZocDoc typically happen fast, within like 24 to 72 hours of booking. You can even score same-day appointments. That's crazy. This is, I got, some stuff, coming up here that I'm like, I should probably make an appointment. ZocDoc seems like a great fit for that. So stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/JeffG to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/JeffG, ZocDoc.com/JeffG. And we're back.
Bruh.
Whoa. I didn't know you had a soundboard on your side. That's crazy. I did think about setting up a soundboard with a bruh button on it. Because I have all this stuff, I thought about like making them their own and filling it full of stuff like that, but I don't think...
Give them some that they want, but also give them some that you want.
Well, it hasn't happened for a while now, but when I first let them play around with the soundboard, they were both walking around... saying this.
Knock, knock, open up the door, it's real.
And it was amazing to have like a 4-year-old walking around going, knock, knock, open up, door is real. And I was like, if I can facilitate more of that, then maybe that's the direction to go in. But
and then like the next time the kid hangs out with whoever taught them bruh, that kid's going home and telling their parents, knock, knock, open up the door.
Yeah, like maybe that's the way it has to be. Like you have to kind of fight fire with fire on this, and really kind of take it back to the parents and say, no, this is I'm gonna do you one better. And now your kids know all the words to "Me So Horny" by the 2 Live Crew. The clean version. I mean, let's not be crazy, but
is that like "Me So Hungry"?
No, it's just it's instead of I was instead of him saying I was sitting at home with my dick on hard, he says I was sitting at home watching Arsenio Hall.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's a completely different song.
Yeah, it's but also like not that different in the grand scheme of things. In the grand
also,
scheme
his
of things.
dick can still be hard while watching Arsenio Hall.
Yeah,
He's
it's implied. I think at that point, I'm watching Arsenio Hall, if you know what I mean, and I think you do. Death Stranding 2 is out, I guess today. And the reviews hit yesterday. I have had it for a while. I went on a ride with this game, and by that I mean I have not finished the game. I have not played a ton of the game. And
did you finish the first Death Stranding?
No,
I did not.
No, I got to a point in Death Stranding 1 where like you're building bigger bridges and you're on vehicles and all this other stuff, and I reached a point where I was like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah,
like the gameplay is not drawing me in. The story is certainly not drawing me in.
Yeah,
and then I kind of walked away from it. So I went into this game going like, well, I've heard, like, so they had a bunch of people go to Japan and play it for like 30 hours. And so I had a couple of conversations with people who were on that trip about the game, and they were like, oh, it's all, yeah, it's, like they've totally reworked it, and like it's not, like yes, it's still that, but they streamlined so much about it. And that actually kind of got me a little bit excited for it. I'm like, oh, if they really kind of honed this thing down a little bit, maybe it could be cool. And so I got a hold of it, fired it up. The first thing I did, there's like on the main menu, there's like a recap of Death Stranding 1. And I was like, well, let's see what this is all about. And it's this like, kind of static image, but it's narrated by a dead man. Who is it's not his voice, but it's the Guillermo del Toro character. And so it's this him going like, okay, so is what happened, and then Sam on the bridges, and then he did this, and then
So
Hot Coldman did this, and it was just like this this insane long thing of me watching it going, and then the BTs, and then Sam left with the baby and was missing ever since, and it was, and so by the end of that, I was already like, oh, I don't know if I don't know if I can do this. Like the recap of the first game was like okay. Fired it up, was really entranced by the opening, which is you're kind of walking along this big ridge as the credits play, and
Kojima always kind of hits on that front.
Yeah,
he knows how to like kick off a mood in a game.
Yeah, it definitely does that really well. The baby's grown up a little bit. I'm like, that's a good looking baby, and the interactions with him and the baby once they get to their house and where they live and everything. And then like basically in the first 5 minutes, someone is showing up at your door and going like, you thought you were out, but we need you. You got to get back out there. We got to hook up Mexico to the network. And and then it's like you're walking through trudging through the fucking bullshit, holding down the triggers and walking through a river, and I was just like, I can't fucking believe I'm doing this. I cannot fucking believe that this is what is happening. And so I got through that part of it and then stopped. And I just and then Summer Game Fest happened. A bunch of other, a bunch of other games were coming out and all this other stuff. So there was a while there where I didn't have a ton of time to play it. So I was focusing on other things. But in the back of my mind, like I was like, oh, I got to get back to that. And so a couple of times I sat down, loaded it up, got to the main menu, and then was just like, I can't, and went and did something else. And so I went to Summer Game Fest, had a couple of conversations with people, some of whom were on that trip and then now were reviewing the game, and kind of conveyed this feeling of just like, I don't want to fucking do, like, I'm not going to fucking walk through this shit again. I'm just not going to do it. And they looked at me like, oh, well, no, I mean, it changed, it's like, yeah, I mean, there's still a lot of that, but like, you get a truck. And I was like, fucking, and so I just that is as much as I have played of the game. And I don't know, like reading the reviews and some of the stuff that has hit have been interesting because there are people that are kind of all over the place on it.
Yeah, it seems very divisive. And I even see, like, usually when there's mixed reviews, it'll be like, some people are like, I really like the story and the gameplay is kind of bad, and then the negative review will be like, the gameplay is awful, the story's okay. But like, I'm seeing contradictions on like, the story sucks, the story's great, the gameplay is new and different, the gameplay is the same and it sucks, and like, just kind of really seems like nobody agrees on this, which is a little exciting.
Yeah, I mean, that is maybe the most interesting thing about it, right? It's been like, oh, like some people really hate the story, but just can't get enough of giving thumbs ups. And that's probably the thing I like the most, is being able to like other people's structures, and you can still do all that.
Yeah. Can you still pee and make mushrooms grow?
I believe so. Yeah, I believe that stuff is still in there. It does not have Monster energy drinks in it.
Okay.
Instead, he drinks.
They took those out.
Yes.
Of
So the
update,
director's
right?
cut and some of the updates and stuff didn't have that in there anymore either. Now, at least the first base you get to, he has cans of something called chiral tea. So it's not even like another branded drink. It's just like, here's this thing, and you get like a stamina boost for drinking it. But I kind of liked the dumb product placement in the first game, because it was like when you took a shower, there was an ad for Norman Reedus's motorcycle show on it.
Ride or die.
They're just like, this is the dumbest shit. What the fuck am I looking at here? And yeah, I don't know. So it feels like it's missing a little something on that front. But like, I don't know what to do, man, because I read a couple of the positive reviews. I read a couple of the negative reviews, and the negative reviews, I feel like I'm already seeing that stuff, or like that's some of the stuff where I'm just like, yeah, like I don't really want to engage with these systems. Like I'm just not. Like, I did not like the first game, and that was what I didn't like about it. So, like having this stuff, if this game is still this game, I'm kind of out. But then the positive reviews of it are like, actually, no, it's like they're saying like, oh, it's some of the best stuff of Phantom Pain in terms of how you handle combat, and you can just load up a truck with machine guns and drive into this place and fucking smoke all these people, and they made combat a lot easier to manage and all of that. So it's like they kind of give you an out there where you can just straight up smoke everybody, but it is still in service of delivering packages. Right. And I think for me, that's the part that's just like, I don't want to worry about cargo breaking down, and I'm not having fun trying to figure out like, oh, if I place it here on my backpack, or if it's here in the truck and the truck is really good at keeping it upright so it won't tip over, or like reading about those things are like an active deterrent for me. And so I'm just like, I'm really fucking torn on whether I'm going to ever play this game again, and I have not even gotten out of the prologue. And
do you feel like it's one of those scenarios where it's like, maybe in 4 to 6 months there's like no big new games out, and you're just like, oh, maybe like I fire this up again, and there's like a reality where you're like, oh, I am actually going to play this for 60 hours.
Maybe anything's possible, right? And so I'm trying to leave myself open to that possibility of just like, oh man, I really would like to see this thing. Like the big reveals at the end of the first game, I thought were utter nonsense and just straight up bullshit. So seeing some of that stuff after having played a bunch of the game, and then seeing the rest of the story and stuff, is just like I felt like I really dodged a bullet by punching out of that game when I did. But yeah, I don't know. It's funny. There was a story going around where someone was claiming like, oh, playtesters were liking the game too much, and Kojima's reaction was, we've got to make it worse because it needs to be divisive, because that means it's good art, or whatever the. And I don't know. Mission accomplished, I guess. Like, I fucking hate it. At least what I've said of it. This is not a full review, by the way, because again, I haven't finished the game, and the NDA I agreed to says I will not put a score on a review unless I have seen credits. So, which is not a thing that is commonly in a review NDA, which is very interesting.
But what is a score? Could I say I give it like? I think it's 3. I give it a Australia out of Earth.
So like drop bears, like what? Okay, that seems bad.
On the Earth scale, it gets an Australia.
Okay, I want to like Australia, but I think the reality of Australia is maybe worse than like Australia. The Australia in my head, which is Crocodile Dundee and some of them koala bears and and just having a fun time in that big opera house.
Yeah,
and like all that stuff seems great, but then you get to actual
you could bring
Australia.
back some big spiders for your mom.
Yeah,
too.
then you get into actual Australia, and it's like, here's a 7-foot tall spider, and you're like, I have to go.
And all they drink is Foster's.
Right.
Am I right, folks?
Yeah, I can't even wrap my hand around this can. What are you trying to say? What are you making up for? What are you compensating for in Australia with these thick ass cans? I like a Foster's. I don't know. I'm not a bloomin' onion guy, but I think Outback Steakhouse is like a pretty okay. At that tier of restaurant, you could do a lot worse.
I might get in trouble for sharing this story, but my partner would get dragged to Outback Steakhouse as a vegetarian by their parents. And so they did something they called going potato mode, which was ordering a baked potato, French fries, and mashed potatoes.
That is certainly going potato mode. That is certainly going potato mode. Yeah, so I'm really not sure what to do from here. Like there's a part of me that wants to see more of this game. Do you have any volume control on your end? Can you turn yourself up a little bit? I
just saw that too. I'm juicing my mic a little bit.
I don't have any further control over here.
Hope this sounds better.
That sounds a little better. Yes.
That's
too much. That's terrifying.
Okay.
I can't even understand what you're saying when you do that. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to do about this thing because, like, at the end of the day, I don't want to play a game where you deliver. It's not even necessarily that it's like a better package delivery game. I would maybe be interested in. I do not like the way in which this game handles package delivery, whether you are on foot or in a vehicle.
Is it the managing the like load weight and like having to go all the way down? Because I like. My experience with Death Stranding 1 was I was like, oh, this is a neat concept. You got to like kind of balance your backpack. And then like just the thing of like getting to the place and then having to go all the way down the hallway and getting on the little specific spot and unloading.
Yeah.
I just found that kind of tedious.
Yeah, like I think a lot of that stuff is tedious. And then also I don't especially like the... And it's like it's cool in a systems way. It's like it's very cool that all this stuff is in there. But the like... oh, well, you were off balance here, and then this happened, or like, oh, this package needed to be delivered hot, and you delivered it at night, and so it cooled off, and like the management involved in that sort of stuff, and that stuff is in the new game, not in the part that I've played, but dealing with it in like similar stuff in the first game, and then seeing how they're building on it in the second game, it's a feeling of just like, well, I already didn't like this, and you have expanded on this system quite a bit in ways that I think are very interesting on paper, but also I don't want to do this. Like the idea of building a big monorail sounds cool. But
you want to see somebody's finished monorail.
Not even really, yeah, I guess so. And then some of the online stuff will maybe make that a reality for some folks, but I actually do kind of like the building aspect of it, and the social, like that online connected thing, I think is maybe the neatest part about it.
Yeah. And it's the part that like really hit during quarantine.
Sure.
People were like, oh shit, like this game's message is actually like, it was easy to write this off as like just weird before, but then when it's all had at this point, but like we were in a period where we were disconnected from each other entirely, and the only way we could communicate other than like Zoom or whatever was send a package to somebody, or like get your food from a package, like get your food delivered. Like delivery people really were a link that like one of the only links we had to each other as humans for a while. And it was like, it kind of put that game, you can reevaluate that game and be like, that was actually really prescient and like cool.
Yeah. Like there is definitely something interesting about that aspect of it for sure. But yeah, it's just not a game I really find myself wanting to play. I'm not getting enjoyment out of the moment to moment of it, other than like, look at this cool thing I built, or look at this thing I stumbled upon, something that someone else had built, and I can send them a bunch of thumbs ups and hooray. And I think that stuff is really neat. But at the end of the day, it's still all in service of like bringing these things from point A to point B, and I just don't want to do that. I hit my wall in the first game and got to a point, like I hated it in the first game. I was just like, I reached a point where I was like, okay, I'm like suffering through this to see a story that I also don't like. Like, what am I doing?
Yeah. The story stuff is really the kind of the thing that might tip me over into not playing it. just because like I do fuck with the package delivery a little bit. I need a game right now that I can like sit on my couch and kind of not like, play super twitchy. I can kind of just like relax a little bit and walk around and look at how pretty it is. And I'm like, this is like kind of right down. Like I tried restarting Red Dead a couple weeks ago because I was feeling that itch for a beautiful game. I could walk around in a beautiful world, and it was just like wasn't connecting again on my second playthrough, and so this. But then like you, I only saw the context. I saw the story basically without having to play through it. I was watching cutscenes. I think probably around our like Game of the Year deliberations.
Yeah, I think that's when. Like I had seen that stuff before then, but I think that's when everyone kind of just like, okay, we need to at least see where this goes because it's yeah.
And I had a very similar thought of you of like, I'm kind of glad I didn't see this through.
Yeah, definitely. And so I got whatever and I don't take that to mean like I'm certainly not trying to issue some kind of definitive statement about the game. Like like people will like it. I think that people who like the first game will probably get a lot out of the second one. It sounds like that the enhancements are really cool if you're into that very specific type of gameplay, and if that story got you at all, it's well, I don't know. That sounds like maybe it's the hit or miss part, that there are people who really liked the story in Death Stranding 1 that are not liking the story in 2, and then vice versa, like people who like think it's way better than the Death Stranding, where it's like, oh, this is reined in the right ways, or this is extrapolated in the and so I don't know that there's much to be gained from reading all the different reviews of it, for at least from the story perspective, because I think that that stuff seems like it's all over the place and your mileage may vary. But I think the thing that is a little bit more locked in is like, this is a built up and refined version of the first game from a gameplay perspective, but also it is still that game with a bunch of new stuff in it. And so if you already kind of don't like the core of what that game is, I'm not sure that this is going to like bring you to it and be like, now I really like it. Like, unless the specifics of like, well, it's cool that I can shoot everybody now, which is like it's funny that's like for a game that like really tried to treat combat as like a really kind of messed up thing in the first game, and really, I don't know, like some people engaged with it pretty directly, but it seemed like you were maybe better off working your way around it, or trying to be as careful as possible. Like,
or like one or two people out and then bash them with a briefcase.
Like, this feels, it's like that it's way more like, nope, now you can just get in there and fuck everybody up if you want to, which almost feels like a weird concession to just like, all right, everybody likes to kill people, I guess, in games, so here's a bunch of guns and other stuff, and go do your thing.
Until you get to the part with the end, and you realize that
turn the console off and back on, and a week later, and but yeah, I'm really perplexed by it, but also in some ways it's I don't know. I was hoping that I would be able to like really get into this one, even though I didn't like the first game. I was like, hearing some of the stuff that people came back from Japan with, I was like, this does sound like maybe it could be kind of cool. Maybe this stuff kind of worked out, but like I hit an immediate wall with the package delivery stuff. There's just like, and having a bunch of people say, oh, well, no, you get trucks and stuff later, was like, it did not, at no point did that make me feel like, oh, well, I definitely need to grind to get to that part. It was just like, no, I don't want to do that either. Like, I don't, it's not, like, I just, whatever, man. Like, I should do something else with this time. So I don't know what's going to happen, man. I will leave it installed and we'll see what happens if I end up going back to it. I tried a couple of times. They took the servers offline for the last week or so because they're getting ready for launch, and so they got to go through and do whatever they do. And so with that, you're not seeing anyone else's roads or bridges or any of that other stuff. So loading it up and seeing that and having to play offline was an extra kind of deterrent. It was like, well, I guess I didn't play it enough while the servers were up, because the servers had been previously up for reviewers prior to that. So, people did see that aspect of the game. They didn't just review it entirely offline, which would be crazy. but that got me feeling like, okay, well, I'm just gonna wait until it's if I am gonna play this, I'm gonna wait until it's out and the servers are up, and then try and then maybe try it again.
People will have some fun stuff already.
Yeah,
popping up a little bit.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I'm bummed. Ultimately, I think that's my kind of feeling on it. Is like I was kind of hoping like I could go for a big weird video game, because there are just not a lot of big weird video games anymore. And
yeah,
and so I was kind of hoping that maybe this one would grab me in a way that the first one didn't. But I so far have found it pretty repellent. You've been playing Nightreign.
Yeah, I've been kind of chugging through some games this year. It's been a better year for. I'm not as tapped in, obviously, as I used to be, and so.
How's that feel? Does it feel good? You feel like when games surprise you, of just like, oh, that thing's coming out? Is it kind of like, is it cool?
Yeah, it is. It's nice, and like, you know, I even missed some things, and people are like, oh, that came out, and so I'll check it out. But Nightreign was definitely on my radar. Like, I loved Elden Ring. It was mine and everyone else's game of the year. 2013? Is that right?
No. Elden Ring is way newer than that. It's like
2014? Oh, sorry. 2023 is what I meant.
2020. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So like I was excited for this. I didn't play the network test or anything, and my few friends who did were like big, obviously, from heads who were like, oh, it's not the same. And so kind of a little bit of like bad first impressions, but I've been really liking this game in a way that I am quite surprised by. I had a pretty negative initial reaction to it. I only picked it up because like I had a group of friends on Discord who were like, oh yeah, let's all play it. And played a few games with them. They got a head start, and so I was very much like catching up and just kind of following them around the map where, you know, just really briefly, total like PUBG style battle royale. You know, you start on a map, you got a circle, closes, and there are points of interest around the map, bosses at each that all kind of give you different rewards and different types of things. So part of the game early on is learning like okay, the most efficient route might be to get to the like where the circle is safe might be to go through this way, go south, right? But then you start learning like, well, there's a church over here that's going to give you an extra flask charge, which is really useful for the whole game. You know, going from 3 to 4 flasks is huge. One more heal in a fight can like make the difference. So let's go for those first and identify like each map kind of has like its unique challenge. Like, are we ready to take on the castle or the mountain or whatever it may be? So, like, it wasn't really until I got some solo time in, I started playing just with randoms, trying to learn for myself, like, okay, why are we going to those locations? And learn the game really from a ground-up level. It was really rewarding. It's a really interesting game. It feels... It's hard to put exactly into words, but it reminds me of when I, like, discovered... like Virtual On for the first time, or any of those like robot fighting games. Because I was like, I understand that as a child when I like there was a hotel out in Bodega Bay that had Virtual On just randomly in the arcade, and I remember the first time I sat down and started playing it, and I was like, this isn't like other like I understand the video game concept of a big robot and like piloting that.
Yes, the value is inherent.
Right. But it's usually in the context of like you're playing a level and you fight some guys and then there's a boss, where suddenly now it's different. It's like a fighting game, but it's also a robot game, and like, but it's not a fighting game because there's a lot of ranged attacks you have to like kind of get into position, and the movement is way different. It's faster, and it's like all this stuff. So it took a familiar concept and then put it in a context that I wasn't like familiar with at all, and it kind of felt like that with this, where it was like, yes, this is a Souls game. This plays like Elden Ring, but the movement's different. You have kind of unlimited sprint. You can mantle, right? Like, there's no horse, but you don't really miss it because you're zipping. When you want to get from point A to point B, you get there fast. Like, you're only taking your time if you see a distraction, like a random boss out in a field that you want to go fight, or some items or something. And you're often running past just like lower end mobs because you want to get to like the boss, because the boss is going to give you loot, whereas mobs will just give you some souls, right?
Right.
And once I kind of like realized that like this is its own game, this isn't an Elden Ring sequel.
It's not a multiplayer version of that game. It's just kind of like, hey, they were willing to adjust the rules in grander ways to make it fit the game they wanted to make.
Yeah, and is it like worse than Elden Ring? Like, definitely. It's not, it's
sure, yeah.
It's a completely different game, and it's hard to compare the two other than like it has Elden Ring in the name. Like, but I think it's fun. And when I was like talking about it with some friends, and one of my friends was like, "This feels like them take like a rough go at what an actual cooperative integrated Elden Ring could look like an actual full-scale Souls game that has true co-op, and not the co-op that Elden Ring had, which you could like summon a guy to help you for a boss,
right?
And that was basically it. And once that kind of unlocked as like this is like maybe a test run at that sort of thing, it really made me like excited for like I haven't beaten this game. I have 2 bosses left. I'm gonna keep playing until I beat them, and they've already gone through and added like a harder version of some of the bosses, and they've announced like more characters and stuff. So it's also interesting in that way because it's their first time kind of doing anything live servicey.
Right.
Like they definitely support their games post-launch. They patch them. They like
But this has been, because this is, what do you keep between levels, between runs? Are you resetting all the way back to a total base level, or
basically, yeah? So you unlock there's like a currency that persists. And you unlock some of them randomly, but then you can also buy these little trinkets, and you can kind of have a loadout with like 3 trinkets, and there'll be various things like boosts to stats or character-specific stuff. Each boss drops one that does like a special thing if you equip it. It's kind of got like a Mega Man thing going on where all of the bosses have a weakness and a thing that they do. Like one might be weak to holy and do lightning damage, and when you beat it you get a little medallion that gives you lightning damage, and then so you find the boss then that's weak to lightning, and so on and so forth. It's also the most time I've gotten to spend playing like a caster, like a mage style character in one of these games. In Elden Ring I played like a hybrid, but in this one, since it's kind of Monster Hunter-y, where it's a lot about like aggro management. Right,
okay,
you want like your tankier characters up front, hitting it, slashing it, so that aggro is being drawn to them, so that the ranged characters or the spellcasters can be out doing their own thing. And it's really made me appreciate, because like in Souls games proper, some spells you need like 60 points, and you need like level 60 in faith to even use a spell. So like
I was always afraid to do any spell casting stuff in any of those games because it seemed to always seem very weak at the beginning. Yes. And a lot more resource management than I wanted to do in terms of just like making sure I had enough points to cast whatever I was trying to cast. And
it's a huge commitment, and like you're saying, it's not even that strong really. And in these games, like it's relatively strong. Like I'm doing good damage, but you still have to like manage that. Like sometimes you want to go in there with your melee weapon and not waste the mana or whatever, because there's no like mana flasks like in those games where you can't restore it directly. But it's been really fun. I think it's easier to recommend if you have at least one other person who would play it with you.
Right. Well, that's something they said that they were working on. They were like, there seemed to be an acknowledgement of just like, we didn't really think that people would play it alone. We certainly didn't think people would play it in duos, which is like a weird, I don't know, it just seems like a misunderstanding of how multiplayer games work these days, especially co-op games, on their part. But, it seems like that they are kind of working to catch up on some of those things. To maybe make it a little friendlier for people that want to either do it by themselves or just as a 2-player thing or whatever.
Yeah, and even queuing with randoms, like sometimes you get people who are just going to run off and do their own thing, like any video game you ever play with anyone.
Right, yeah. That was the big Apex Legends problem of just like they build all these ping systems and all this other stuff, and then someone would just run away, and you're like, well, what the? All right, fine.
Yeah, it is. I think it's like so funny, and also the best move possible to not have any communication in this game. You could ping.
I was going to ask if they had anything meaningful, but no, nothing, huh? Just
There's a ping, and then they have those, like, remember from the Souls games, you would, like, drop a thing, and it would go, hello.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Thank you.
Right.
Like, they've got those.
What more could you possibly need?
It takes so long to do that. Nobody sits around and waits for you to reach in your bag, pull out the little guy, drop it.
That's crazy.
So, like, there's a ping. You can ping something, like the map. And then, like, if somebody pings your ping, it'll say, like, they also want to do that.
Yeah.
And that's it. Which, like, totally, I think if there was, like, voice chat, it would make things easier, but it would completely ruin the mood.
Yeah, it's... I mean, that's voice. It's the hard thing. And like co-op games, online co-op games, in some ways have never been more popular than they are right now. But also, it feels like the communication in them is only getting worse or weirder, or just, I don't know. It felt like Apex Legends was onto something with the way its ping system worked, and then it just, I don't know. Every game after that, even the ones that just kind of lifted that system, it's never really worked as well, or just, you know, like, I don't know, it just seems abrasive in a weird way. I guess everyone just assumes that everyone's on Discord or something now. Like, you're just, like, you know, like, you're just gonna play with this FBC Firebreak game that just came out last week.
Right.
Has no in-game voice chat. You can ping, and that's it. You can ping. You have sprays, as if anyone's ever gonna spray anything ever. And
sprays suck. Can I just say, sprays used to be cool when you could upload your own images.
Exactly. And now that they're like on a battle pass, like if you get to level 6 on the battle pass, you unlock an arrow pointing right. You're like, get fucked. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, this is the worst.
If I can't make it goatsy, then what the fuck is the point of any of this?
Yeah, no, there's no point. It's weird. I don't know. Like, I don't know what the answer is, because I think the people have spoken. They don't want to speak. They don't be like, people don't want to have voice chat with strangers in their games. And I feel like that's a pretty majority opinion at this point. Then just no one wants to deal with that shit. And the replacements have not been good either. But also, like, it's a toss up. It'd be nice to be able to say, like, oh, let's go over here and do this. But also, I don't want to hear like someone's weird fucking racist screed about, you know, the spellcasters or genocide, whatever. Just some fucking insane shit. So like, playing games with strangers is really, it just feels really broken these days.
Yeah, and like, I've gotten to the point where, like, I'll still play multiplayer games that have voice chat, and once in a while I'll chat in and, like, I'll say something to somebody and they'll be like, bruh, and I'm like, oh my god, they're 12, and I'm the old man now. That when I was 12 and there was some old guy on like some guy, well, no mics, but like typing, like, I'm 46, which was probably bullshit. But once in a while, I was definitely playing StarCraft against like a 46-year-old. Yeah. But now I'm the 46-year-old, and it just doesn't feel good.
You get used to it. I don't know what the answer is there. And Nintendo thought they like were onto something with their like camera thing, but like that only works with friends, and so it's not even really attacking the problem at all. And are you still playing Dota? Is Dota as toxic as it ever was? Is it?
There's a funny thing now in Dota where they will mute players mid-match.
Wow.
They have like some sort of thing that recognizes like if you're typing too much. And like I don't know how it works. Sometimes people chat all the time and it's fine. Sometimes it like somebody gets muted trying to like respond to something. But I think it's really funny because it does a notification in all chat, like blah blah has been muted for the remainder of the match, and then you just get a bunch of LOLs in all chat. I feel like it probably is less toxic overall because the people who are still playing it have been in the toxicity for so long that they're just kind of like walking husks.
Yeah, you just get tired of it or immune to it, and so you're not necessarily contributing to it anymore. Yeah, you're just like, whatever, man. I'm just here to fucking control this lane or whatever. I mean, have all the truly toxic players moved over to Deadlock? Like, what's the? Actually, I was like, are you still playing that at all? Like, I feel like last time we talked, you were like, "This is the future of video games. It's going to be the biggest thing in the world." And Like they're still,
and it was for a week.
well, but then like, but also it isn't out yet. So like it may still be someday, right? Like I think people turned on that game in a weird way because they expected it to be that immediately, even though everything Valve has said is like, I mean, this game is not out. It's not going to be out for a while. Like, leave us alone.
Right.
Like,
it's not even technically in a beta yet.
Yeah.
Like they're not even calling it, like they call it like an open play test, or it's not even, because I think you still have to technically be invited to it to play.
And then there's the talk of the secret other build that some people have access to. It's like, all right.
Like some streamer or sometime like leaked something, and I think it's. I mean, I still think it's cool. We checked back, like they changed it from like 4 lanes to 3 lanes, and we're like, oh, that's a big enough change that we can go back and play a couple games. And we're like, yeah, okay, it's still cool. It's like they like actually did a pretty big overhaul to like the movement and shooting, and like I already thought it felt good, but it felt like much better. But even us, as like kind of like, by us I mean like the group of people that I play Dota with that also like shooters,
right?
We're like the perfect target for this kind of game.
Yeah,
we're like, this is cool. We'll check back in every once in a while. When it's out, we'll see what's going on there. So I do think there's still like a future for that game. Valve got, and it's still getting a lot of good data, I'm sure, from like player feedback and all of that. Like I'm sure obviously it's less now than it was back then, but yeah, I don't know. It's strange what their play is for that game.
I don't know that I mean, it just feels like that they just need to get it right, and then they'll figure out what the rollout for is going to be. Like even maybe they already know that, but this has been going on long enough that I'm sure at some point they were like, okay, we just want to make sure this game is good first before we even invest any more time in it.
Yeah, Valve likes to move at their own pace with that stuff because they can.
Right.
They have infinite resources.
They're the freaking Valve. No, that's good to hear. Yeah, I don't know. Like the expectations got really out of whack once they had to publicly acknowledge that it existed, because I think everyone, was like, oh, well, now that means since everyone's talking about it and streaming it, it means that the game is out and it's finished, and I don't like the way this looks, and this is, like it started getting like a new level of criticism that it probably wasn't ready for yet.
It like blew up around that whole time of that one journalist who like got banned because they were streaming it because Valve was like, please don't stream this.
Yeah. And he's like, I didn't sign anything. It's like, okay, well, then we're just going to ban you from it. I don't know. Like, it's okay. People can stream it now if they want.
Everyone had to see the game that got him banned.
Oh, my God. Yeah. What a weird times for sure. But yeah, that's cool to hear about Nightreign. I don't know. Like, that is an interesting idea to me. But as someone who, again, is just not, I don't know. Like, the thing about all the Souls game talk and every time it comes up is I just get closer and closer to playing Bloodborne again. Because all of it just funnels me down into, dude, I should just reinstall Bloodborne instead of dicking around with any of this stuff. And
that's one of the only ones I haven't beaten.
Yeah, that is probably the only one of those I would say at this point that I really, really like. Like Sekiro is neat.
Yeah. And
I almost played way more of it and then just kind of didn't, and so maybe there's a case to be made to revisiting that. And then as like, if you're like looking for something softer, I think like the Neo games are all right. Like they're not as fucking insane as some of that other stuff can get, I guess. But like,
it's been fun. I've been streaming I've been streaming. I mean, I haven't streamed for like 4 months, but for a while I was streaming Dark Souls, the original, because I had never played it.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just really fun seeing how far, like, those games are very much like in their heart and at their core the same that they have been.
Right.
Like, but it's so fun seeing just like what little tweaks to the engine, to the gameplay, to the controls can make such a huge difference. Like I like the jump is where you have to like run and then press 2 buttons, and it kind of does like a little leap, but it's more for like horizontal momentum.
Yeah.
Versus like finally like in Sekiro they gave you like a proper jump, and you're like, oh, it like jump attacks really open up this game to like be more interesting. And obviously Elden Ring,
and also like the terrain and everything in Sekiro is more conducive to like you should have a jump. Like I when you go back and look at Dark Souls, like I don't know if you even really need one all that much.
Not really, no. There's some times where you need to like jump off a cliff onto a smaller cliff.
Right.
That's really
Yeah. But it is that kind of like slightly more deliberate, like, okay, we can afford to make this 2 buttons because like you're just not going to do it all that often. So yeah, it's almost like there's almost like a Grand Theft Auto like quality to that, where like you go back and you play GTA 3 compared to even Vice City, let alone San Andreas, that like, you know, as those games got better and better, or as they made them over and over again,
right.
They brought more, like they iterated on the controls so much in ways that make GTA 3 really fucking hard to go back to. Even Vice City at this point, I think, is a lot harder to go back to. Like San Andreas for me is kind of the line. And it's because they like realize like, oh, like there's more shooting in like you need to be able to shoot faster, you need to be able to aim better, you need to be able to drive better, you know, like all of this stuff, like the games they were making needed better control than what they had done in GTA 3. And so there's almost like a parallel there between those things. It's kind of weird. Are you so how do you know, like now that you've seen a multiplayer take on this concept, they also have that Switch 2 game announced, Blood Killers,
Ashes.
Blood Hunters, Bloodman.
Bloodman. I think it's called Bloodman.
I think it's called Bloodman. I'm looking it up here.
Let me pull that up too.
It's called Bloodman.
The Bloodmans.
Bloodman : the Dusk Bloods.
I've been so tuned out. Like, I was talking about being tuned out. Trailers specifically, I'm like not looking.
Yeah.
Was there any gameplay in this, or is this all cinematic?
I think it's I don't think there's much.
Oh, he's got a gun though. That's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, so this is like co-op as well. I
Yeah.
truly don't know anything about this game. It's like a Bloodborne-y. Okay. Yeah, I mean,
God.
like they've got
I've
enough
completely
cachet.
dropped out.
Oh,
What the hell happened?
hi.
Hello. Hi. So I guess we got too close to the truth. You said that the Bloodman had a gun. I believe you were saying
the Bloodman's got a gun.
I believe you were saying the Bloodman had a gun. And it just cuts again.
I'll play any From game. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't finish Armored Core 7, but like they've got enough. Nothing they do isn't interesting.
Mhm.
Even if it's not something I like actively like engaging with, I am willing to give it a shot.
I appreciate that they are out there doing their thing.
Yeah.
Like that is kind of how I feel about them these days.
And they really
And I
haven't
think,
seemed to like sacrifice their approach. Like I guess they made an Elden Ring DLC, and then they made this as kind of like a. If you want to believe it's like a attack on you, I would listen to you, but also it does feel like a test of something, right? Like
Sure. Yeah.
an experiment.
Yeah. It definitely has that feeling of just like, hey, we have some ideas about what this might look like as a multiplayer thing, and you know, maybe they do something bigger or maybe they don't. I mean, Duskbloods would indicate that they're like, okay, we're going to try to just do some of these side games and some of this maybe smaller stuff and see how that goes. I think that's a cool idea. Also, it's interesting, you know, for as much as the genre has turned into a thing and all these other studios and developers have tried to make games in this vein, and as much as the term Souls-like has become overused, I think, these days, but only because people keep trying to make games like this, it still just feels like a lot of the time that no one is doing it the way that From does it.
Yeah.
Not to say that all those games are terrible or anything like that, but like there's just a specific point of view that they or whatever that they come into these things with, that they are able to do this in a way that no one else is really matched on that front, I guess.
I think a lot of it is just how long they've been at it. Like, obviously they've been making Souls games for whatever, over 10 years, but like going back to the pre-Souls stuff, you know, they were trying out lots of shit back then, and it wasn't hitting
You go back to Kingsfield, it's a it's a bad time.
But it, like,
No.
I'm sure every game taught them really valuable lessons,
Yeah.
right? Like,
It was funny. Like, that was one of the funnier parts about the rise of From Software, was seeing people rediscover Kingsfield and try to play it off like, no, this is, you just weren't ready for it. You weren't ready for Kingsfield. And they're like, okay, yeah, I mean, maybe to a certain extent that's true, but Jesus Christ.
this is the first time I've ever seen Kingsfield. Holy shit.
Dude, you should just start streaming Kingsfield.
I will stream some Kingsfield, absolutely.
It's a lot. But also the other part of it is true, is that I think players have a much more open palette for crazy shit.
Yes.
Than they did back then, certainly, but even like 15 years ago or whatever. I think a lot of that is due to the rise of Demon's Souls and everything that came afterwards. I think they really turned the industry around in a way on like difficulty and what does it mean to be a hard game, and everything had gotten so streamlined and so easy. And I think that there's plenty of room for that. People should be able to finish games. We should have settings in games that let people adjust it to their tastes to a degree. But I think that like the hard end of it had gotten really dumb. The like difficult games just became a math problem.
Right.
It just became, we're turning up the grunt's health and Master Chief is easier to kill. Have fun. And you're like, that's not fun. Like, this isn't, like, that's not making the game more entertaining.
No.
You know, it's just like, okay, it's a more visceral challenge or whatever. And so like them finding ways to just bring back secrets and just obfuscating the truth and making games weird in a way that they had been focus tested away from for so long. I think that stuff is like, that's great. That's great.
And like having a batshit story, but not like forcing it on you, giving you like an intro cutscene and like maybe 2 or 3 cutscenes throughout the entire game. But if you want to dig into the lore, it's there. Like if you really want to get into it, you totally can.
You can spend all your time reading the backs of items and figuring out all this other crazy shit, and they do that for you, and I think that's really cool. I think like it's that, and it's the you could maybe draw a connection there, but probably not. But like the way that some of the Like a Dragon games, the Yakuza games got popular here, and just the kind of, again, the wider palette of the Western video game fan, I think has been really cool to see, even if I don't always, vibe with those games.
Right. Even if you don't want to deliver packages.
Exactly. I don't want to deliver packages, but I'm glad that someone is out there doing that shit. And with that, why don't we get into the news? Some Microsoft news. They are apparently planning some widespread layoffs across the company that will theoretically be going down next week. A number of sources have kind of corroborated this information in a wider context. Bloomberg is claiming that there will be substantial cuts in the Xbox division next week. There's no kind of further... there's no like, oh, it's because they're getting out of this, or they're getting out of this. There's been some talk that maybe some regions in Europe, maybe their regional outposts are getting shuttered, which, they could centralize that stuff under a different part of Europe or whatever. I don't know, but that's as specific as it's gotten. Like no one's really said it's going to be these divisions and this is the business they're getting out of or whatever. It's just there's substantial cuts across the entire Xbox group. There's been talk that the sales organization at Microsoft kind of overall will also see substantial cuts, kind of separately from the gaming division.
So when they say the Xbox group, does that mean that includes like studios that Microsoft owns?
I would assume so at this point. And because the thing they did when they bought all those studios, when they bought Activision, when they bought Bethesda, they didn't integrate them into any of the centralized, like, the people I talk to get a copy of Forza Horizon, for example, are completely different from the people I talk to get a copy of Doom.
Right.
And they're completely different from the people I talk to get a copy of Tony Hawk.
Right.
Because Activision's got its own separate apparatus as well. So there are a lot of things about that operation that are, there's like technically duplicated efforts. I don't but those games and franchises are large enough that it probably behooves them to have dedicated people for something like Call of Duty. It would make sense to have that be big enough to not have it just run through everything else that Microsoft publishes or whatever. But there's stuff like that where like they didn't centralize a lot of those services, and so maybe you see cuts at that level. I don't really know. Maybe they actually do cancel some games along the way with this, if that's the direction they want to go in, or maybe this is more kind of centralized services in the kind of general division. It's hard to, I don't know. We're only kind of just speculating here on that stuff. But that is something that looks like it's going to be happening next week. I feel like enough people have reported, hey, layoffs next week, for that to be some kind of true. Their fiscal year ends June 30th. And so this may actually be this week now that I'm reading the dates on these stories. But Microsoft apparently does like to make cuts around the end of their fiscal year.
Sure.
And that's coming up. Alongside that, they have announced a fun new product.
It's a new Xbox?
Yes, this is also an Xbox, but more correctly, it's a Facebook VR headset. But it's black now. And green.
Oh.
Like an Xbox.
So they based it off of the colors and the souls of the people developing it.
Yes, exactly. It's the Meta Quest 3S Xbox Edition. It is a Meta Quest 3S, which, despite 3S sounding like it might be a special edition of a Quest 3, the 3S is actually a little bit closer to a Quest 2 in terms of it has like worse optics than the Quest 3, and is not quite as powerful, and so it is not the flagship most powerful headset that Facebook makes.
Yeah, wait, why is Facebook making Xbox a headset?
Because you can play Game Pass streaming games in the headset on a giant fake TV. And so they're packing in an Xbox controller and giving you like 3 months of Game Pass. And it's it's the Xbox colors, which you could do this on any Facebook headset.
Right.
So the thing yeah, exactly. Just get your sprays out. This is what the sprays were for the whole time. Put a goatsy on it and stuff. And so, because it is something that is just a video wall streaming from the cloud, it's not necessarily something you need the newest, latest VR hardware to benefit from.
Sure.
And so it's not. And so they're selling that for $399. It comes with the Elite Strap, which you can replace the part that keeps it on your head. You can buy a better one of those that works, which is nice. It's nice to have one.
It's nice that you can buy a thing that makes it work.
Yeah. And so it comes with that. It is limited edition. It is on sale now. And they're like, when they're gone, they're gone. Which, like, okay, I don't know, man. It's a VR headset. It's 2025. Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
But, at the end of the day, I think Facebook is increasingly, maybe desperate's not quite the word yet, but give it another 6 months. But, like, people don't seem to want this stuff. So here's a way for them to market it as like more directly as, hey, man, this plays Xbox games in the cloud. Which that experience has been pretty hit and miss for me on all types of hardware. So I don't know that I would necessarily run out and do that, but you can. I feel like if you were going to buy a headset, you should get the actual one with the good optics and stuff. Like actually get a Quest 3. It'll cost you a little bit more money, but like I wouldn't, if I were to invest in this right now, I would not get a 3S.
Is Quest the one you don't need a computer for?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it is the standalone device. That's the only one that they make now. I don't believe that there's any other kind of Oculus Rift thing. Valve still has their headset that still needs to hook up directly, and then from there's like a billion other weird manufacturers that are just like, we make a crazy headset and you can hook it up to a PC too, and you're like, all right, well. The talk has been that Valve will eventually have some kind of standalone headset of their own, but that has not materialized yet.
None of this matters because my Meta Ray-Bans are in the mail, and I'm not going to need anything else.
Why did you bother with the Ray-Bans? I mean, the Meta Oakleys are coming. Why wouldn't you go full on?
Fuck!
Yeah, sorry. I'm
going to snap them in half as soon as I get them.
That's a good idea. That's a good call. You should immediately destroy them and buy the good ones.
They do this thing now where if you you can do your like, gonna do a video now and post it to Instagram as a reel, and then like the little pictures of glasses show up on the little bubble, and it's like, check this out. This was taken even more against everyone's will who was in there than if you had your phone out and they could at least see that you're holding a phone up.
Hell yeah, awesome. I love it. The thing I'll say about the glasses is they make taking upskirt photos a lot harder.
What's upskirt?
I really wrenched my back on the train the other day. It was fucked up.
Just like on one of remember those little things from like PE, the little like cart with 4 wheels on the bottom that you could push people on. You just like strap a few of those to your back and let the physics take care of the rest, my man.
Exactly. That's where the money is made.
Physics.
I still have my Snapchat glasses, my Snapticals or whatever the fuck they called them. And I always think about charging those up and wearing them. With that, I think you can take video. Yeah, you can take video, but it's really just you can take a picture on them. And they have just like big dumb lenses on them, so it's like and the lenses light up when you're using them. So it's not a very good secret photo taking device. But the thing I liked about it is because they were meant to be like these spatial 360 videos, is when you export them out of that environment, they look like you fucking had a fisheye. They look like you're shooting a skateboarding video or a Beastie Boys video. They look all fucking round and fucked up.
Don't make them sound cool.
I bought them out of a vending machine on Venice Beach. Me and Austin Walker walked all the way from where Judges Week hotels were up to a vending machine so that I could buy glasses. And when I got there were a bunch of dicks that worked for the company that would push all the buttons on the vending machine for you. And I'm like, no, I didn't come here to get help with a vending machine.
I could have gone to a store if I wanted some asshole.
Yeah, if I wanted some dipshit to fucking know that I was buying this garbage, I wouldn't have. It was a whole thing. But I still inserted a credit card into a vending machine and got a fancy pair of glasses out of them. And I because I brought my backpack to Summer Game Fest, I found the charging cable in there, and I was like, "All right, these things. I still have those somewhere. I should find those."
Yeah, it's time for a comeback.
It's time for a comeback. Agreed. That is what the team at Remedy has already said about FBC Firebreak, which launched last week. They have decided it's time for it to make a comeback, and so they have made, I don't know, dramatic changes maybe isn't the word, but they issued a patch on the last Friday, basically like the week of release, and completely within reason. They have not completely rebuilt progression in that game. So that the problem with that game, one of the problems with that game, it is it's a 3-player co-op first-person shooter. Right. It is kind of class-based, and the classes work together where like, one guy has a big water cannon, the other one has a big shock stick, and if you get someone wet and shock them, that's good.
Yeah.
And so it's interactions like that, or like, hey, there's a sprinkler overhead, you can shoot it, water will fall, it will get all these Post-it notes wet, and you need to shoot all the Post-it notes because they're evil. It's set in the Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion universe, so Post-its play a big role. Anyway, so they built a progression system in this thing where you are unlocking better versions of your weapons and more weapons on a kind of free battle pass type of thing. But you come out of a level with like 8 upgrade points, and then you look at it and you go, oh, well, the machine gun costs 20. But also it's on page 3 of this pass. Have you played Helldivers 2?
Yes, where you have to buy a certain number.
Yes, it worked exactly like that.
Got it.
And so there were cosmetic items on there. And so you're like, I need to, before I can buy the machine gun I want to use, I have to buy these gloves and this other horse shit that I'm never going to touch. And so they tossed all of that. And they split the cosmetics out onto another track of a separate cosmetics-only battle pass type thing. And I say battle pass, but it's not something you're paying separate money for. And now they have one that is just, here are the essential items that will upgrade your 3 classes and the weapons that they can equip and all of that, which is good because now I have the machine gun I wanted to use and I didn't have to unlock 3 pages of garbage.
Right, so if your problem is with the gameplay, if the problem is you're not feeling powerful enough or engaged with the combat, now you have a much more direct line to hopefully make it a little bit more compelling.
Yes, and every time I've played, or the previous time I played that game, it was with everything unlocked, and I'm like, this is fun, this shoots well, this does this, and then you play with all the level 1 stuff, and you're like, oh, yeah, and so this gets you there faster, which is nice. They also reworked the way the levels unlocked. It's got 5 levels in it, and so I guess I keep likening it to something like Left 4 Dead because it's like there are 5 scenarios that you go into and you run them over and over again. They don't really change. Left 4 Dead actually probably is a bad example because the director thing was good at making the encounters feel like they were changing meaningfully from run to run, whereas this is more like, you know, each level has up to 3 areas depending on what setting you set it on, and you can do 1 or do all 3, and then if you do all 3, there's like a bigger encounter at the end or a boss fight or something to that effect. But the idea is you get into the level, do the stuff, and then run back to the elevator to escape. And they had it set up to where to unlock the full 3-tier version of a level, you first had to beat it on level 1, and then had to beat it on level 2, and then you could play it on level 3. And they instead said, oh, fuck it, man. Everything's unlocked at level 3. Go, I guess. And so it feels like that they just kind of sat down, looked at some numbers, and looked at the feedback, and just said, what can we do to take all of this out? Like, without, you know, we don't have time to code a bunch of brand new stuff right now. We'll have a better solution down the line. But is there something we can do right now to tweak this? And they just said, fuck it, man. Unlock everything. And you know, and separate out the cosmetics, which is an interesting, like, the game is better now than it was.
Yeah.
But also players are going to burn through that content at a much more rapid rate. And so it's like now they're under a different gun than they were before in terms of, like, they already said, oh, we're getting 2 more levels out by the end of the year. We're going to add this stuff to the game. And now it's like players are going to burn through the launch content way faster.
Which I suppose is better than people bouncing off of it completely.
Totally.
But it is another problem. And the how quick they had to do it, you know that they had this as like a contingency plan. Or like somebody was like arguing at one point, like, we shouldn't do this, we shouldn't do this.
Someone lost an argument, and then they got to walk in the office the next day and go, see? What the fuck did I tell you?
Break the glass.
Went, all right, fine. All right, yeah, yes. It definitely feels like a break glass to save video game kind of moment. I don't know. Yeah, again, like I think that like the levels themselves are just kind of a little repetitive to begin with, and so it's very much a step in the right direction. Like, it's like good on them in a weird way for noticing, like, hey, we absolutely need to make a change here. But at the same time, I wonder, man. It's funny because this is like, I don't know. Like, one of the patch notes says, no more needing to unlock gloves just to get a better revolver. And if you go back and watch the video I did, it's like there's like a full minute of me complaining about the gloves. So I'm like, all right, okay. Sorry.
That is silly.
Yes, it is silly. It's something that I felt pretty similarly about Helldivers.
Mm-hmm.
Of just like, I really like the way my character looks right now, but I need something that's on page 3 of this war bond or whatever they're called, and so I have to unlock totally meaningless stuff here in order to get the next thing I want. And yeah, I didn't really like that system there either. But people stuck with that game because they liked it a lot more. So yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting set of changes they made. They're also saying like, hey, they're ending saying today's patch is just the beginning. These are some of the most immediate changes, but we're actively discussing and planning broader improvements to the game based on what we're hearing and seeing. So, like, good on them for being able to act quickly and at least like ease some of that. And they do, in fact, they do say what you referred to here is that, you know, like, people who are getting into it are really liking it, and people who are getting over that initial hump and unlocking the stuff were like playing quite a lot of it. But they were finding a lot of players very early on being like, dude, I don't want to do this.
I know this is maybe a bigger conversation than we want to spend on this right now, but like, why did they make this game or a game like this? Because it seems so like such like a business move in a way that like Remedy hasn't really.
Well, so I mean, if you look at the game and the size and scope of it, I don't think that this game cost, this game did not cost as much to make as Control did. Right. Or anything else that they're making, right? So, this is something that I think is probably, I'm not going to say no risk for them, but considering it launched both on Game Pass and on PlayStation monthly game, whatever, it's probably relatively low risk for them. And it also kind of helps them spread their wings a little bit. I think it's probably something where they can go like, hey, we're kind of, because they've got that Max Payne thing, and they've got Control 2. I think that's it currently. And so I imagine there's just probably room in the middle of those large productions where you're like, we've got a team that's kind of not doing a bunch right now. They want to kind of go off and try to design this little multiplayer thing. And so I imagine that this is designed to be something that they get a lot of, like, not necessarily data. It's not like they're getting player data, but like they probably learn a lot about something making this game and working on this game. And they've tried to do it. The thing they've been hammering home through the entire like preview cycle on this is they've been saying, this is not a job. This is a game. This is not a live service game. This is a game that, we are going to issue updates for it, but they'll be cosmetic. We're not going to put a bunch of dailies and weeklies. You're not going to have to like play this the way you play a live service game. It's meant for you to just kind of come in, play it, leave, come back when there's new stuff. And they spent all their time focusing on that aspect of it and not really spending that much time talking about the game.
Yeah.
And it's funny because when you get the game and install it and play it, it doesn't do a good job of telling you what the fuck you need to do or how you need to do it.
That's the biggest complaint I heard, because I'm sure it's a loud complaint you can make early on when you're starting out the game and are like, I have no idea what the fuck you do in this game. I'm not going to play it anymore.
Because they're like, you need to, like the first mission they kind of throw you into is like, oh, you need to go fix these fans. But then like the second one, which ended up being the first one that I played the first time I ever played the game, was like, there are all these Post-it notes everywhere and you need to eliminate them. But they don't tell you how to do that. And depending on which class you play, you might not really have a weapon that makes sense. Like, you find yourself with a submachine gun shooting walls covered in Post-it notes and watching them kind of slowly disappear and then going like, what the fuck am I doing? But if the Post-it notes get wet, you can shoot them in bigger groups and it's more effective and easier to destroy them. But like, they don't tell you stuff like that.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff in there, and there are like weird interactions where like you're on fire. And so this happened to me. It was a terrible chain of events where I'm playing with one other person. He goes down. He is actively burning. He's on fire. When I revive him, it sets me on fire. And so I get him up, but now I'm on fire. He is still on fire. I go down. He heals me, and we're just kind of like healing each other as we're walking through the level. But if you look up, there are sprinklers on the ceiling. If you shoot them, water comes out.
Right.
So really you would have to kind of like chain, we were trying to chain our way back to the shower because every area has a shower. You heal in the shower. It's where you go back to, there's like a ammo station and there's a shower.
Yeah.
But the levels are full of, shower, like sprinkler systems overhead. And if you just shoot it with a gun, you will get rained on right there.
And you'll make the sprinkler, the Post-it notes wet and...
Yeah, and it will also put you out if you're on fire.
Yeah.
And so there's like a lot of interactions like that that are like kind of cool. But it doesn't do a good job of like pointing at that stuff and going, here's a thing you could do. Like this, it doesn't let you know that these are even like concepts in the game, really. And so they need to do a better job of just like training you about what to look for or what you need to, like the different ways to kind of solve some of these weird problems. It does not onboard you at all. It's just like, here, you push down on the D-pad to ping. All right, go. And it's not a very effective way to kind of have you deal with the tasks that they then throw at you. Something about that's kind of interesting because it does create a little bit of mystery, but it is usually not fun mystery. It is usually frustrating mystery. And so yeah, I think that's something they need to definitely like get better at doing.
Because they never really had to like, their games are all about like going into a world with a weird vibe and you don't really know what you're doing and you kind of are able, but you're able to work through them slowly and at your own pace. And, you know.
Yeah, whereas here you are jumping into it with two other players.
Choosing a loadout,
Yeah. And even at the matchmaking screen, running into some issues where like the different classes level up separately. And so you will find yourself incentivized to stick with one class to level it up all the way. But sometimes you'll get match made into a lobby that has someone else already playing that class. And as soon as they see you join and not change your kit, they disband the lobby because they want one of each of the three classes. And
weird.
But also the game had matchmaking bugs, so it was hard to tell if it was people disbanding the lobby because they didn't like that you were playing their class. And you can all be the same class. There's nothing stopping you from doing it. But if you want to take out the Post-it notes effectively, it would behoove you to have a waterman with you.
Right.
But yeah, it's a neat game with neat ideas, and I think that some of the execution is off. But the other thing I would say is if they correct all that stuff, I'm not sure that this game is going to be like an amazing, astounding hit. It's cool. They have some ideas, and it's neat to see those ideas explored. But the content is still like pretty repetitive. If you're coming at it from the angle of like, I really like Control, like it's a very different, it's not a game about you having cool telekinetic powers.
Right.
It's not even a third person game. It's it's a first person shooter. It's just an entirely different thing kind of set in that universe. And yeah, it has some interesting ideas, but I wonder, especially now that like the launch has gone the way that it seemed like it was going to go, and they're already kind of scrambling to make changes and figure some stuff out. Like, are they gonna get a player base back to try it again, or has everyone already kind of moved on? Hard to say, but there is something to it. That's the unfortunate part about it is that
they're a very talented studio. I mean, like, I don't think they can make something that isn't at least interesting, right? Like even like Quantum Break and games like that, like they didn't really hit, but like they had ideas and they took risks.
Yeah. They did the campaigns for Crossfire X, which is their only other first person shooter experience, and those were not good.
Crossfire X,
everyone's favorite. It's the most popular. Crossfire is the most popular game in the world, but no one in the U.S. plays it. So just trust me, bro. It's the most popular game in the world. It's gonna be huge. And oh wait, they shut it down. I still have Crossfire X installed on my Xbox because when you launch it, it loads up the store page for the game, which they've replaced the game description with a note that says, "This game, we took it offline. It's gone.
It's not real, and it never was."
Yeah, basically. That game was in some kind of like beta state for like years or something, and then it finally shipped and was like, oh yeah, no one wants to play this. Moving on, the sequel to Hypnospace Outlaw has been canceled. It was called Dream Settler. Jay Tholen, the lead developer on this game, as well as Hypnospace Outlaw, posted a difficult to watch YouTube video, an emotional YouTube video where he kind of walks through what Dream Settler was going to be and maybe why it didn't work out, but that he, along with the game's publisher, have decided to call it quits on this one.
Yeah, it seems like I hadn't really been following this game, but it seems like the scope was quite bigger.
They wanted to make a fake Flash. They wanted to make like the Flash era of the internet, and made a fake Flash that you'd be able to make your own stuff in,
like a music sequencer, right?
Yeah,
too?
yeah.
Like,
and it just sounds like that there was a lot, and that they had smart people working on it, but there's just a lot.
And it was saying it was the first time they had a budget. And having a budget means you have a timeline. And that's where the stress comes in. Because it's like, people think like, oh, like, you know, oh, great, my game blew up. And now suddenly I can make another game and I have way more money and I can do a lot of things that I haven't done before. But then the realization comes in of like, if somebody's giving you money, that means they want a product by a specific date because they're doing all their back end business of like, great, okay, we approved this budget, and now that means, you know, in X months we're going to have this game coming out. We're going to start gearing up marketing and all this other stuff. So you have to be delivering. Like, things can be delayed, but like if you're if you're whatever 30-40% into production and you realize like I'm going to need years to do this and I don't have it in me, then there's not much
which Hypnospace was kind of that of like a maybe slightly more meandering development cycle than what this was lining up to be. Hypnospace was such a cool thing. And Slayer's X, the shooter that kind of came out and kind of set in the world of that, made by the edgy nu metal loving kid from Hypnospace, as like here's a deliberately bad first person shooter. It was at least cute, but the problem with making a deliberately bad first person shooter is that it is still a bad first person shooter,
right?
And it was neat for what it was. But yeah, this is super unfortunate. Hot Dad, who recorded who is the Chowder Man, was he had recorded new material for it. They're saying that, and obviously this is all still pretty new and pretty raw, but it sounds like that maybe when the dust settles a little bit on some of this stuff, that they would like to get some of this work out there in some form, even if it won't be a finished final game. That, like, hey, there'll be a way to see some of this stuff maybe someday.
Sometimes they will in the announcement be like, and by the way, you're never going to see any. I think like when Matty Thorson announced that game was never coming out, there was also a note that's like, there's music and art and stuff, but you're never going to see it.
Right. Yeah. Which is wild, but that's, I don't know, how some of these business deals work sometimes. But yes, I think the hope here is that this will eventually, some aspects of this will see the light of day, in some form. But yeah, it's a bummer. There was a lot of cool ideas happening with that thing from the sounds of it. And there was a thing over the weekend where I guess in London on the Tube, in the London Underground, they put up an ad for Metroid Prime 4 and put a sticker up on it that said "Out Now."
Yep.
And so
are you enjoying
people
it?
were like, I mean, about as much as the other Metroid Prime games. So this was in the Oxford Circus Tube Station in London, according to Video Games Chronicle.
Yeah,
they went out and actually they took
ahead.
a photo. Went out and took a photo of said ad. Nintendo got back to them and said it's wrong. Basically, we can confirm that the "Out Now" message on this advert is incorrect. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond and Metroid Prime 4 Beyond Nintendo Switch 2 Edition are not yet available and are scheduled for release in 2025. Which is like way more of a sentence than needed to be written than, it's not, no.
Like, duh. That's all they need to say is like, you can't buy it. Go try and buy it. See what happens.
Like, it's out. Yeah, it's out now. Go down to your local chemists and pick it up, Gov. Like, what? Pop into
Tesco.
Hit up a Tesco, get some crisps. Go to Greg's and get a sausage roll.
Hit a cheeky
and a copy of
Nando's on your
Metroid
way
Prime
home.
4. Yeah, a little cheeky Metroid Prime 4. And I believe they have since corrected the ad in question.
Right, it was a deal where they like used the same kind of like framing from another ad for another game.
Yeah, it was
right?
like the Mario Kart World ad had a similar treatment on it, and so it looks like that they just at some point in the process,
Control V.
the wrong You know, I left one too many layers on in this Photoshop thing, and fucking, I don't know.
Oh boy, someone got yelled at though.
Yeah, I'm sure. It's like it's a dumb thing that's like easily. It was like a day and a half of people going like, "Oh, weird."
Yeah,
but like no one's going like, "Where is it?" You know, I don't think
everyone knew it was a mistake instantly because like you can stealth launch a game, but probably not that game, and probably not with an advertisement in a subway.
And you can take a Switch 2 and go like, oh, is it out now? No, it is not. Turns out it is not. Did they put up this ad a day early? Is it out tomorrow? No, okay. So yeah, I don't know. They corrected it, but it was a silly chain of events there for a day and a half. On the Switch 2 front, there's been some reporting coming out of The Game Business, which is Christopher Dring's new outfit. That third-party sales on the Switch 2 have been, quote, very low.
Is that good?
I think so. I think that's probably good. No, so this is... there are about 12 different ways to break this down. One of which is that when you look... which is the only one I'm really going to get into. One of which is that when you line up the Switch 1... third-party sales with Switch 2 third-party sales, Switch 2 was actually off to a better start than Switch 1 was at launch in terms of third-party. That comes from Circana, from Matt Piscatella, which he also says the thing that I would say is the other thing is like this is all so early that it's kind of a ridiculous thing to look at. Everyone is trying to like fit their own pet theory into this, which has led to... Have you heard about the game key card on Switch 2?
Yes. It makes sense. Of course I've heard about it.
Okay. It has led to the people that think that those things are the devil's business to say, that's why! I would have bought 6 games, but instead I bought 0 because they're not real games. I don't think that the mainstream Switch 2 user knows or cares about any of that shit.
Probably not. No, they have Mario Kart.
Yeah, but also, you know, I think you could look at it and say every single one of these third-party games that launched alongside the device are old.
Yeah.
Like, it sounds like Cyberpunk was maybe the one game that did, like, reasonably well out of the batch.
Except, like, the DLC I read, like, doesn't really run great or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know. The Cyberpunk is interesting because they sat down and really thought about the Switch 2 and said, what can we do control-wise? And so it has motion controls, it has mouse controls, it has, like, multi-touch touchscreen map zooming in it, and like, they really kind of went all out in terms of supporting all the weird shit that a Switch 2 can do. But you know, it's at the end of the day, it's still that game. And so if you are the sort of person that is going to be an early adopter of a new video game system,
right,
it stands to reason that at least some percentage of those people have already played all of those games somewhere else.
Yeah. And like, when the Switch 1 launched, and for the first several years of the Switch 1, there was no Steam Deck, right? And I'm sure that a lot, Steam Deck didn't do like Switch numbers, but it sold well. And like you're saying, it's like, it's the only people who have Switch 2 right now are like people who are like savvy, people like you're talking about, or Nintendo heads who are like, I got Mario Kart.
Right.
Like, maybe in a few months I'll like look through this shop and see what's on sale or something and buy a game, but like, yeah.
Yeah. I don't think there's any like real big takeaway here. Other than that, I think third-party sales on the original Switch were a really weird road. But more recently, it sounds like that they have been doing quite well on the third-party front in terms of just sales of Switch 1 games and stuff. So, but I think, it's too early to kind of say any of this stuff. I think there are a lot of pet theories, and I think a lot of them are probably true to a certain extent. I'm sure there are some people who didn't buy physical third-party Switch 2 games, which is all they're tracking because it's all they can track. Nintendo doesn't really reveal its digital sales. And saying, oh, well, that's not the real game on there. It's just a key code. I'm not going to buy that. I'm sure there are some people in that bucket, but probably not enough to matter on some. There are some people that are going to be early adopters who are like, I already played Street Fighter 6 somewhere else. I don't give a shit. I am going to buy a Luke amiibo though, because that's cool. You know, they're smart people. And they're not going to, you know, like the Yakuza 0 multiplayer mode that they added for Switch 2 sounds like it's not especially great. I still need to fire that up and try it. But there's just, I don't know, you look at that list of games and most of them already appeared somewhere else. And so I think it's easy to explain away some of that stuff for like 5 different reasons. But it's too early to, I think, even do that. So, well, you know, it's a silly thing to get hung up on right now, I guess is my point. However, the Switch 2 did. There is a problem with the Nintendo Switch 2.
What's that?
And I will just read this headline from VideoGamesChronicle.com to you. Limited Run has asked Nintendo to pull Gex Trilogy from the eShop as it doesn't work on Switch 2.
No!
I know.
Why won't anyone think of Gex? Has Dana Gould made a statement on this yet?
Yeah, he said, what now? So a lot of the limited run games run on a similar engine. There was a Switch 2 firmware update that fixed a lot of games, but not Gex Trilogy. And so I guess there is a patch in the works that, you know, when the patch is out there, they will presumably be returned to sale. But for the meantime, for the in-between time, they have decided to pull the Gex Trilogy from sale.
This is the first I'm hearing that there's 3 Gex games. I knew there were 2.
Yeah.
Damn.
We talked about I talked about the Gex Trilogy last week. It's not a good collection. Like, they have new Dana Gould interview footage in there, which is like maybe the interesting thing about it, but it is chopped up and cut up in such a terrible way that it's not a very good interview. It's like presented like bad B-roll.
Wait, can I do my impression of Gex commenting on this news and headline?
Go for it.
Don't you think limited run is a bit on the nose?
Nice.
Thank you.
Yeah. That patch, it sounds like that patch may be hitting very soon, if not today or something. So, you know, maybe this national nightmare will be past us by the time this recording goes out into the world. But for, you know, for that last weekend there, it's been real rough out there for it's been rough out there for Gex fans. Gex fans been having a real rough go of it lately.
They need a dub. Gex fans need a dub desperately.
Absolutely, they need Gex Junior to be developed. And you know, it's such a short prototype that leaked out. We need Gex Junior to be full game.
We need a live service Gex game where you can constantly have the opportunity to get new current riffs on like whatever.
It's a battle pass for riffs.
Holy shit! It's just instead of like pictures of guns, it's pictures of celebrities, and you like unlock them, and he'll do a riff on like, oh, Timothy Chalamet, he's doing too many movies now. I mean, that's just like a rough draft of what he might say, but
maybe punch that up a little bit. But I think you're on the right.
That guy's Wonka.
I would say that everything on the battle pass also needs to be like at least 30 years old. Like, it's not.
You're right.
It's just new riffs on super old shit. It's just like, all right, if you get to tier 27 of the battle pass, you unlock all the Monica Lewinsky stuff. Pretty excited about it.
Gex wears the blue dress.
That's right. Yes. Speaking of Gex, Duke Nukem is in the news.
Speaking of culturally relevant.
Speaking of the hot shit. Duke Nukem is in the news because Eurogamer is reporting after an Esquire interview
that he's been appointed to a cabinet position.
Yes, that's right. He says that the ceasefire is back on. The ceasefire is back on, bitch. Adi Shankar, who developed Devil May Cry and Castlevania for Netflix,
Yeah.
has apparently acquired the rights to Duke Nukem.
It's really funny to me. That's
And the quote he is quoted as saying, not the gaming rights, but he says that he has purchased the rights to Duke Nukem from Gearbox, and is going to be developing it into some sort of series. Presumably, that might be something that Netflix will maybe.
I think that's going straight to Tubi.
Yeah, is that a Tubi original? It's going to debut on the fucking Roku channel.
I like that Castlevania show a lot. I didn't watch the Devil May Cry one, but I like that they used Limp Bizkit for the theme song.
Yeah.
So, like, there is a world where this could be good. It depends what direction they... Like, it depends how straight they play it. Because it's either you play it 100% straight and it's funny because they're doing Duke Nukem in 2025...
Right.
Or you like have fun with it and have a good take on like what Duke Nukem would look like in 2025.
Well, here's what he had to say about it.
Oh no. I only read the headline in the first couple. Oh god.
It's a middle finger to everybody. When Duke Nukem blew up, a bunch of people sat around trying to turn it into a brand when it's just a middle finger. Duke Nukem can't be made by a corporation. Because the moment a corporation makes Duke Nukem, it's no longer Duke Nukem.
Yes.
I don't intend on having anyone tell me what to do on this one. He's quoted as saying, fuck you, I won't do what you told me, basically.
Which is good. That means it's A. That means there's like no irony about it. There's
I guess, yeah.
All right, who we got? Who do we got in Duke Nukem? Who's casting
So this is the thing that caught me off guard about this story, and it makes sense given the trajectory. I had heard back before Borderlands, the film, came out, that Gearbox, who was then owned by Embracer or whatever, but that that Duke Nukem, the movie, was in development with John Cena attached.
Okay.
And that was a thing that was like... sounded like it was going to happen. And I heard some of that secondhand, but I heard it from someone who is a somewhat reliable source for his own games.
Sort of a magician when it comes to these things.
Yeah, perhaps. And so that's obviously off now.
Yeah.
Because Borderlands, the movie, sucked shit. No one fucking apparently it was not a good movie. I don't know. And, obviously the Embracer group crumbled and Gearbox is now part of 2K. Like, a bunch of other things happened along the way. But now they have sold these rights off to this guy who has done Castlevania and all this other stuff. So I assume... I don't think you get John Cena for something like this. I also think that with his, with Shankar's work being primarily in animated. Like, I don't know that he's necessarily the right guy for it. I think if you're doing an animated thing, I think you just get John St. John and be done with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would work. My dream is to have a live-action Duke Nukem, though. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah.
I think it would be cool to get Austin Butler in there because that means he's going to be talking like Duke Nukem for 5 years after the movie comes out. He's going to voice trade and like get that Duke Nukem voice down perfectly and then just be Duke Nukem IRL.
All right.
Like, you need someone with like buff presence. That's what, like, Cena like is an automatic like, oh yeah, duh, okay, makes sense.
Yeah,
big guy,
I think,
funny.
Yeah, like as far as like a live action Duke Nukem, I think he would make a ton of sense in that role. But yeah, I don't know. Like, what if you wanted to do like what if you got like Oliver Platt, and it's like Duke Nukem, but he's older. He's maybe not in quite the same shape he used to be. Maybe he's got a cocky son who needs to be put in line.
Oh, what about Wahlberg? I think he would be able to get to the core of the middle finger to the world.
Mark Wahlberg would be an interesting choice for like a super serious Duke Nukem that would not be taken seriously. Did you ever see the Max Payne movie?
Yeah.
If he just played it like exactly like that.
Give him another shot.
If it was just exactly that character, but like an occasional wisecrack that he didn't smile at all through or anything. Like, yeah, maybe you get something like that in there. Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, I don't even know. It just seems like, like I think of live action, like there are a lot of wrestlers that you could maybe put into something like that.
Duke pretty much exclusively fought. The only Duke Nukem I've played through is Forever. But he's
the best one. Okay.
He's typically fighting just like kind of generic alien monster guys, right?
Yeah, like they're trying to take over America and steal the babes, or depending on which game you're playing, like there's like, I've got to save the babes. So you've got to save these babes. Shake it, baby.
He doesn't really have like a rival. Like there's not some like nerdy doctor who's
like there's the big alien, and then he's like, I'm gonna rip off your head and shit down your neck, and then he does it at the end of the game, and you're like, okay,
yeah.
I'm gonna fuck a hole in this couch cushion and then maybe order some pizza.
He's gonna be the VP.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's president in one of in Duke Nukem Forever. Maybe he's not the president, but he's
in Saints Row. You're definitely the president.
Yeah, in Saints Row, you're definitely the president. But I'm gonna take 2 shits.
There's gonna be
take
2
some
shits.
Pepto-Bismol.
Me taking a shit and you eating shit,
and then I'm gonna say shit.
That's right. 3rd shit.
Andy Samberg. The voice of Andy Samberg.
Call me Francis Fukuyama because I'm the end of your history, punk.
I feel like that's way too there's too much thought already there for that to work. Yeah, it's a middle finger. Duke Nukem is a middle finger. I disagree. Like I think that like his read on what Duke Nukem is, I think, is so fucking off base. On top of that's also amazing. Like when Duke Nukem blew up, a bunch of people sat around trying to turn it into a brand when it's just a middle finger. Like no, they kind of didn't. Like they sort of didn't. Like the Duke Nukem Forever went through fucking development hell because they couldn't figure out, the technology was not there to make the fucking amazing game they had in their heads. Meanwhile, you had a bunch of like off-brand console games. Like here's Duke Nukem on the PS2. Like a new one of those just leaked out. One that was in development. It was like Duke Nukem in World War II or something.
Oh, cool.
Fucking, yeah, right. Yes, that's the exact reaction. Oh, cool.
I've heard of D-Day. Where's Double D-Day?
I'm gonna bring Suck My D-Day to Adolf. Why is he in a robot outfit? I thought we did that already. Yeah, but again, it's a middle finger to everybody. When Duke Nukem blew up, a bunch of people sat around trying to turn it into a brand when it's just a middle finger. Duke Nukem can't be made by a corporation because the moment a corporation makes Duke Nukem, it's no longer Duke Nukem. I think you're giving Duke Nukem too much credit.
Yeah, he was
like,
a guy
Duke
that
Nukem
just
is a character that fucking says,
lines.
It's exactly like it's from an era when like games were sort of trying to be more like movies, but they weren't really there yet, and so they stole a bunch of fucking one-liners from other better movies.
It'd be really cool if his quote was like, "No, you don't understand. You could walk in front of a mirror and you would see yourself," and it was crazy.
Right. It was like, Duke Nukem's a middle finger. You could play pool in it. The toilets work.
You could pick up poop and throw it.
Yeah. Yeah. A corporation can't make you pick up poop and throw it. Yeah, it's yeah. I think that he's kind of overstating what Duke Nukem is the same way that they tried to do around the release of Duke Nukem Forever, like trying to pretend it's this bigger thing than it is when it was just like, hey, first-person shooters were very novel at the time. The idea that he spoke at all was interesting, let alone that it was like kind of funny for its era because it was just a bunch of stolen lines and, there are strippers in this game. You know, that was their idea of like hilarious jokes. It was just like, there's a strip club, and you can walk up to hit the button. If you hit the button, he gives them money.
Shit, good
like
baby.
Yeah, and that was fucking cool. It's a cool fucking game. You had cool pipe bombs in that game. The multiplayer was super fun. The build engine was weird. Like, you know, it was a fucking neat thing. But like, to act like Duke Nukem is this like fucking statement is really, I don't know. I feel like that's dramatically off base or dramatically overstating the value of the Duke Nukem character or the what the actual proposition is.
Right, he wasn't
here.
like counterculture. He was just an asshole.
Yeah. And he wasn't anything. He was just an avatar for like saying these fucking lines of dialogue.
Yeah.
And you could sit there and hit the use key over and over again to make the ladies pull their boobs out a little bit. They had tassels on them, but you know, and he would just every third time you hit the button, he would go, "Shake it, baby," and you're like, "That's great," because I'm 17, or, you know, whatever. And yeah, trying to act like it's like this cultural thing that can be tapped into and or whatever, I think is fucking dumb. But I would watch that show.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to see what the fuck comes out of that, because I don't know what you, other than like, here's the story of the game. It's like, I don't know, aliens invaded and they took all the ladies and Duke Nukem has to save the ladies. Like, I don't know what you know, either that or you're trying to make some meta commentary on like Duke Nukem's inappropriate nowadays and isn't that funny? And like, not really. I don't know. I feel like that road has been walked down with so many other properties that like the fish out of water Duke Nukem story I don't think is like especially great either. But fuck, I don't know. Just, the whole thing seems like a bad idea. And that's it for the news.
Bye, news.
Bye, news. Why don't we get into some emails? Podcast@guard.bike is the email address. You can send in your emails, and I will take a look at them, and I will read some of them, such as this one who came in from Adam, who says, as a quickly aging player, I find myself getting worse at video games with each passing year. It's soul-crushing, dude, but as a solutions-minded guy, there should be a way for me to overcome this. Meth? Hard no. Adderall, maybe as a last resort. Get good? Hell no. I racked my brain and remembered cheat engine. Enabling speed hack to slow down games was my answer, giving myself basically a tactical pause system for just about any game. He goes on to cite some examples like slowing down pitchers in Super Mega Baseball or slowing down real-time strategy games, all of that stuff. There's just one problem. I have a cognitive disassociation slowdown of my entire life after logging out of these games. Talking, moving, eating, everything else feels like it's moving super slowly for at least half a day. Yeah, okay, maybe don't do that then. I don't know. That seems like if you slowing down video games is making, you know, like if it's like, 'cause, you know, it's like if you stare at Tetris for a long time and then you look away and it feels like everything's slightly moving up. If you have a version of that is making your entire life feel like it's going in slow motion,
Yeah, you
I
walk
would
out
say,
of your office. Hi.
hey, what's going on? I would maybe see it. I might even see a doctor and ask him about that. But
that's where you incorporate the meth.
Yes, after playing games to get yourself back up to speed. Ingenious. That sounds horrifying. I would maybe, yes, I would either, well, I think a doctor would probably say, it hurts when you do that. Well, don't do that about this. But I don't know, maybe that's something you want to get looked at, but I don't know.
I'm not a doctor, but keep going and actually slow it down to the point where when you come out of reality, think of like, you know, reality is going to be moving. So, here's what you do. You play whatever, let's say you have an hour and a half to game. You play an hour 15, how you want, and then you crank the speed up to double time. And then you come out, and it's going to have the opposite effect where you're going to be moving through reality like you took the limitless pill. You know, you're going to be like just like like karate, food, kids. It's all gonna be just like
karate, food, kids.
the three
Yes.
tenets of a parent.
Exactly. That sounds actually genuinely horrifying. But don't stop. Grant writes in and asks, did Sony die along with the PlayStation experience? Remember when Sony held these events for 4 or so years, you really felt like PlayStation was a company for the fans that was run by the fans, but ever since Jim Ryan took over the company, went to crap. Is this it for Sony now?
Yep.
I still have not wanted to buy a PS5. They do not feel like that company anymore that dominated that generation.
It's gone. Sony's gone.
That's right. Sony wrapped it up just today. They said, wait, you telling me Microsoft's got a Xbox VR headset? We had one of those, but no one... Fuck. We're wrapping it up. No. I do think that Sony was a more personable, kind of outreachy company in the PS4 generation. There were different people running it then, and there were different people across a lot of different divisions that were better at that type of like fan outreach. But I think they realized that, well, I mean, the pandemic happened, for starters. Sony completely reorganized and took a lot of the leadership positions out of this country when that reorg happened. And the PS4 sold really well. Like, that hand-in-hand, humble approach is something they did on the heels of the PlayStation 3, where everyone kind of hated them, developers included. And so, that was something that they kind of needed to do to kind of recover their image to a certain extent, but they don't need to do that anymore. And this PS5 is selling just fine. So, yeah, I think the value proposition of fan events and that type of outreach has really changed post-pandemic, and I don't think people value it the same way they used to. I mean, people go to PAX, but it doesn't feel like PAX and fan-focused events like that feel way less vital on the calendar than they used to.
I think a big part of that is because now you can like buy some influencers to create, who have their own communities, who have their own spaces like that, to like get that same feel of like, I saw this at a thing. Now it's like, I saw the streamer, I like play it, and like we were like all talked about it on the Discord after. And
yeah, there's some of that. I don't know, man. It feels like that aspect, or like even that, the like, hey, we got some influencers or some streamers to do this game. Like the sponsored stream thing doesn't feel like it can make or break a game the way it used to. Remember, because they just had, when Apex Legends came out, like they brought a bunch of people in and they launched it, and they had a bunch of, like Shroud and all these other people or whoever they were.
Brad Shoemaker.
Consulting on the game, or, Brad was not consulting. But, they had people that were doing sponsored things for that game at launch to make it like an even bigger deal. But like, I don't think you can buy your way into that the same way anymore. I think that there are so many sponsored streams now that people have gotten a little hip to it, and they're just like, well, whatever. Like, this is, in an hour, this sponsored stream will be over, and they'll go back to playing what they want to play, and that's what I want to see them play anyway. And so it's become viewed as this like necessary evil. Did you see Mind's Eye keeps coming up?
Mm-hmm.
Did you see that they had done some sponsored streams?
Yes.
Pretty amazing outcomes on that, where one guy had his sponsored stream canceled minutes before it was supposed to begin, and another guy was like at the end of it and trying to say like, you can go buy it now, and like cracked up laughing. I couldn't fucking stop when he was trying to get to the sales pitch of it, which was really funny. But like, there was the game that Shroud guy consulted on and was like an investor in, that was like, it was like Counter-Strike, except you had two bodies. Right. I forget what it was called. Split Fiction. No,
I almost said Split Fiction 2.
Yeah. Something Spectre.
2 Spectres.
Spectre something. I have a trailer for it here that I'm not going to open, but it Bloodman, that's what it is. Copy of MT Spectre reveal trailer, 30-second final, 16:9, H.264, 2160.
It's a weird name.
Spectre Divide. Someone in chat saved us on that. Called Spectre Divide. And that was the game that, like, you know, when they were getting ready to announce it, all they talked about in the press releases was like, these streamers invested in the game. They're business partners in this, and they're going to stream it, and you should stream it too because it's going to be a big deal. And I looked at it, and I played a little bit of their closed beta, and I was like, I don't think this is a very good game. And that was that. And then that guy Shroud, who was an investor in this game, was like streaming it and talking like light shit about it while he was. And the game like failed. It's offline now. You can't play it.
Yeah, he was streaming like Deadlock. Like he streamed it for like a couple weeks, and then he was like, "Well, I'm gonna stream some Deadlock."
Yeah. And so you just had like these sorts of situations where, like, you know, they're trying to like buy that type of notoriety or buy some kind of share of voice on these sponsored streams.
Right. I think it only works for like really small indies that like would have maybe had no other chance, but like some streamer plays it and blows up, and it can be like, oh, it's $10, go check it out, or it's free, like whatever.
Yeah, and I feel like those situations work better when they happen organically, as opposed to, like, you know, if you're going to like, we're going to pay Northern Lion to play this roguelike. You're like, okay, well, I don't know what's going to make that different from the other games he streams. And
he'll play it for an hour and be like,
okay, it's out now. And then move on.
This reminds me of Slay the Spire. Boy, that's a good game.
Yeah, right. And so you have people that are, you know, not going to be on message as you want your marketing to be, but they're also not going to be completely organic and true to themselves in a sponsored stream environment. And so I just don't think those work the way that they used to. That's my understanding of the space, is that a lot of it has changed. It still happens. I mean, it's not like sponsored streams are not happening.
Right.
But the idea of, oh, we're just going to pay a bunch of people to stream it at launch, and that will be what makes this multiplayer only game get over the hump, and it will be a big success. Like, no, that's just not happening anymore. At least it is more of an outlier and an anomaly when that does happen and work, because it just doesn't happen nearly as often anymore. I think that's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
A bad thing for people whose business models rely on them getting sponsored streams, I guess. But like it just kind of goes to show, like, you can only, even if you're going to like pay a bunch of money to try to fool people, it only works for so long, because actual word of mouth gets out there really quickly. And these sponsored streams are not like, these people are not enthusiastically endorsing these video games. They are like playing it. 2/3 of their audience leaves as soon as the sponsored stream starts. They come back after it's over,
right.
Like because they know the deal. And Chad is just sitting there talking shit about it the entire time because it's a sponsored stream. It's I don't know. It just feels like a very dicey proposition now that doesn't really seem like it works. The audience is hip to it, and so they can't, you know, again, proving that they can't really be fooled for very long. Before actual word of mouth gets out and kills it. I forget what the question was, but
why is Sony bad?
Wow, why is Sony bad? They're not. They're actually not. But they're no one is as fan focused anymore on just about anything, because a lot of that stuff has just changed post pandemic, and just like, you know, even at its height, PlayStation Experience was like an event in San Francisco. It wasn't like a zillion people were going to it and feeling the magic of the PlayStation Experience. So it's really just kind of not. It was definitely indicative of a different time at that company, though. I will say that much. Paul in DC writes in and asks, do you think 1 terabyte will remain the standard for the next consoles from Microsoft and Sony? It seems like game sizes have stabilized to the 50 to 100 gigabyte range over the last few years. So I'm curious how much of an incentive the console makers have to up the base storage. And hopefully Xbox ditches their proprietary storage expansion. Yeah. I don't really see any reason to go above 1 terabyte for base model in a world where they're trying to keep costs down. Unless we hit a tipping point where like just 2 terabyte drives are just available in much larger supply than they are today, and 1 terabytes are actually become, you know, the same way most tech moves is like, oh, it's actually harder to get the smaller drives now because everyone's making 2 terabytes and 4 terabytes and all this other stuff. So, you know, like that's the thing that kind of tips that scale.
Right.
But at the same time, like we're not really moving to, there's no one's jonesing for 8K video games, and so we're not going to likely see a big increase in like texture sizes and those types of bumps that led to, some install sizes ballooning up after everyone tried to move to 4K. But yeah. He's right, though. Hopefully Microsoft does not stick with that. Well, Microsoft, everyone's going to make an Xbox, so there won't be any room left for a proprietary storage solution.
And when we're all streaming on our MetaQuests, it doesn't matter.
Exactly. You don't need a storage solution. It's the internet, baby. Max from Brisbane writes in and says, fuck Sydney. But also has a lot to say about Death Stranding. Says, I love Death Stranding, but I fucking hate Death Stranding. I'm never going to ignore something Kojima's attached to. When the first one came out, I was excited as everyone else to figure out why Norman Reedus was carrying a baby. I bought it day one, launched it, and quickly realized that it was what it was. Just kind of walking and delivering stuff with little challenge and a sort of building component with a lot of different resources that weren't really explained. Thing is, though, I loved everything about the game, just not the gameplay. Weird Kojima shit with a bunch of techware and futuresque style ooze. Shit, yeah. I dropped it after 3 hours of walking, and that was that. And then he went back and played the director's cut and got a little bit further and says, all of that just felt like MGS5 minus the actual weight and movement of the stellar combat in that game, so I abandoned it again. And now he's asking, I just got a new PC with enough power. Should I cheat engine the game on PC? Should I bother at all?
I mean, it's worth it. Yeah, fuck yeah.
I have heard that using cheat engine in Death Stranding is actually a lot of fun because you can just do a bunch of really weird shit with it. But I have not done that myself, so I don't really know what the answer to that is.
It's always fun to break a game, so why not? If you love the aesthetic of it, then you want to see what that aesthetic looks like with a bunch of shit that's not supposed to be there too.
Yeah, infinite ladders forever. Walk across the entire nation on one big ladder. I don't know. Yeah, that stuff does sound like that. That sounds like it would hold some appeal to really really fuck with it. But I don't know. Like we talked about that game earlier. I don't know that would be enough to really make me want to play through that entire thing. The first one anyway.
You couldn't. I'm gonna sound like a real dumbass here.
Okay.
Well, okay. Let's pretend there's no mountains from the East Coast to the West Coast of America.
Okay. Yeah.
Could you put one long ladder from one end to the other, but because you couldn't, right? Because of the curve of the Earth, so it would go up a little bit, right?
Yeah, it would go.
Right?
I guess the curvature of the Earth would mean it would go up a little bit, unless it was like kind of a flexy, bendy ladder, But it would hit a fulcrum point at some point and seesaw a little bit, maybe.
So you could, yeah. I guess the question then is could you do it at a point where you could still seesaw? Would it be high enough that it'd be you'd have to have another ladder to get up to the other? I think I've answered my own question, and I've got some work to do.
Okay, good. I like it when we can discuss real modern problems on the podcast.
We're gonna have to go to the mountains first.
Yeah, we're on that. Don't worry. Okay. Colton writes in and says, I know this is kind of like the point of playing old games, but what is the game you always have in your head that proves the idea that the future remakes or re-releases or even games influenced by just didn't get it, and that you wish you could live in a timeline where they got it about this old game? Is there some old game that you just any attempt to remake it just never worked out and they always missed the point of it? Is there something you have in your head that's just that nothing is that they either haven't tried or just some idea or concept that has just always been so fucked up and done poorly?
I have an answer that you're not gonna like.
Okay.
Super Smash Brothers Melee for the Nintendo GameCube.
You're right. That's a game that they never got right. The whole franchise really is something that they have always fucked up. And so I would love to live in a world where those were good games. So I'm with you 100%.
What about okay, Multiverse is gone. What about Nick 2? Nick Blasters 2?
The Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
Wait.
It's got Angry Beaver in it now.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, so it's good then already. They don't need to touch it because it already has Angry Beaver in it now.
I can't really think of a game that, like, I can think of remakes that weren't good, but it was more. I can't think of any ones that specifically they weren't good because they didn't capture some element of the original.
Yeah, I think you have a lot of remakes where it's like, oh, we updated the graphics
Right.
and like it doesn't look as good and now is strange. Shiny in the chat says DuckTales felt weird. I agree. That DuckTales remake was not good, or it was not good in the way you wanted it to be good.
Like, I played through that Super Mario RPG remake, and the menu, like the UI looked kind of bad, but like other than that, it was the same game.
Yeah, it's not like some game-breaking huge thing where it's like, oh, they ruined the thing that made this game good, or whatever. But yeah, I think there are a lot of I think especially when it comes to older games, like the reasons why you may remember and love those games to this day can be for so like many esoteric things. Like when they remade NFL Blitz, the passing and the jumping felt wrong in a way that that the original games, like it nullified the entire game because you're like, oh, this one key aspect of the game is now totally fucked.
Right, like
Tony Hawk's Pro Skater HD is an interesting choice as well. Someone in the chat said that.
Yeah.
Where it's like, yeah, this is like aesthetically, you look at it and go, oh, it's a better looking version of Tony Hawk. That's great. And you play it and you're like, why is it all bad? What happened here? What have we done? You know, there's definitely cases like that. But that's more like the remake was bad as opposed to, you know, missing some kind of key nuance or, you know, or whatever. But yeah. I think a lot of remakes are just kind of, especially the older the games get, you know, it's like you're just kind of, there are a lot of elements of old games that don't necessarily translate all that well for new players or new audiences or new styles of game. I would say if you were to take Donkey Kong Country and go like, yes, the essence of Donkey Kong, like it has none of that. It has like none of the essence of actual original Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong 94 for Game Boy is the perfect actual follow-up to those style of games. And in some weird way, I think people are hoping that Donkey Kong Bonanza is sort of like a recapturing of some of Donkey Kong's stuff, but it's its own different weird thing at this point. It's not. I don't think you can even look at that in the same way because A, you're not playing as Mario.
B, he's
the key point about Donkey Kong is that
now.
Donkey Kong's the fucking bad guy.
Yeah, and he looks weird now.
He looks good now. They fixed him. He doesn't look like a bad old computer shitted out.
But that's how apes look in real life.
It's not how apes look in real life.
Apes look computer generated in real life, and I'm not going to have you tell me otherwise.
Okay, that I can sign up with, but not in the way that Donkey Kong looked in Donkey Kong Country. It is a different computer generated. That's just straight up bullshit.
And they don't wear ties. The tie really, I get where you're coming from with the tie.
Donkey Kongs don't wear ties. Yeah. That's my favorite game in the entire franchise. It's not a lot of people played it, but it's definitely the most rewarding. Let's see. Joe from Grand Rapids writes in and says, I'm listening to the June 10th episode, and there's some discussion about 360 games being trapped on old Xboxes. As a public service announcement, I'd like to draw attention to the fact that once or twice a year, Asura's Wrath goes on sale, and also all the DLC. They do the sales at different times, but if you're patient, you can get everything for around $12. Good to know.
I was literally talking about playing Asura's Wrath with some people who have never played it before 2 nights ago. Yeah. This couldn't have come at a better time.
Well, I don't know that it's on sale right now.
Fuck.
I think it's just that you have to wait a couple times a year for that sale.
I gotta set up some Google alerts.
That's right.
I have my PS3 copy that a Giant Bomb fan very generously gave to me after one PAX, and it is one of the few things I made sure. Oh, wait. It's right here.
Nice.
That was you. Thank you. It's still got a GameStop pre-owned ticket. Wait a second. They just went and bought this.
Hang on.
They just went and bought that and gave it to me. Make me think it's some... Oh, it's got the instruction booklet and everything. Look at that. They don't make them like this anymore.
No, they don't. It's a neat game.
Yeah. It's a perfect game for... You're in a room of people who have never seen or played it before, and you can pass it around, and so you don't have to actually play the whole thing yourself. Because the worst part about the game is playing the game.
Yes. It's a really good check this shit out game, but ideally you're not showing them the entire thing.
Yeah.
Let's see. Josh from Georgia writes in and asks about how you play games and how it has changed. This is mostly for me, but I'm curious about you as well. I've wondered how you enjoy games has changed. I imagine playing games for review and just playing to play can feel awfully different. And I'm curious how you balance keeping up with what's new while still playing what you personally find enjoyable. How has this balance changed over the years? So I'll tell you, this gets to the crux of part of my conundrum around Death Stranding 2 and how we were talking about it earlier. Is there is a part of me that is very much like, I need to play that game because I should play that game. Even if I don't want to play that game. There's a part of me that nags, like that gnaws away. And it is actually the hardest part about working alone, is that when you are working on a larger team, especially like running reviews, like when I was running reviews at GameSpot,
right.
I was assigning out a ton of games to people who would then come back to me and tell me what they thought. And that would become the site's general opinion on the game. And so there were a lot of games I didn't have to play to hear all about. And sometimes I'd go like, oh, well, that doesn't bug me. That sort of stuff probably doesn't bug me as much as it bothers them. And maybe I still want to play it, or maybe I don't. But there were a ton of games that I didn't play that I still felt like I knew innately well, because I watched someone play half of it and talked to them about it and produced content with them about it or whatever. And that's been one of the weirder things, is like now it's literally everything I've played. And the big thing for me is, when is it okay for me to say, fuck that, I'm just not going to play it?
Yeah.
And I've been experimenting with that in different ways over the past couple of years, and it never feels good.
Right. Because you skip a game, you make a tough decision to skip something, and then suddenly you're like, well, could that have hit? And then maybe the thing you skipped it for doesn't hit, But
even you just, separate from that, it's just like, it's am I playing something? Why do I play the games I want to play? So the thing I ran into during part of the Death Stranding 2 stuff was getting a copy of Tron Catalyst, which came out last week. And it's great. It's a really cool game. It's, it's 6-ish, 7-ish hours. It's not, super long. But I really wanted to play it because I am very interested in seeing, kind of, hey, here's this action-based follow-up to a visual novel, and it's set all this, and I always liked Tron, and so I chose to play that over Death Stranding, like several times as well, over the course of a week. And it's this weird feeling of just like, well, I know that Death Stranding is like, a better business move or whatever horse shit. But I was just like, I don't care. I don't really have to care. I don't have to chase that stuff the same way that maybe would have made sense 10 years ago, 5 years ago. Right. But it's still, I spent over a decade, multiple decades, being very focused on the release calendar, and here's what's out here, and we need to have played this, we need to do this, we need to
make sure you have a good spread of genre, and
exactly,
charting out like, okay, a big new release here, what can we supplement that with smaller stuff?
And it's like people get real dumb about it sometimes because they think you've got some kind of like people are dumb about what's it called, Kingdom Come Deliverance. People are real dumb about it because I guess the guy who made it has said a bunch of really stupid shit on the internet.
Great.
And so I haven't played those games, but also I would not have played those games because I don't care about that genre of game, especially.
Right.
So
It A, doesn't interest you personally, and B, you couldn't speak authoritatively on them.
Yeah, it's like I could play it and talk about it for half an hour or whatever, anything really. But like, it's just like that's not where I'm going to spend my time,
and it's not where your audience wants you spending your time. I mean, like, sure, it's good to branch out and touch things you don't touch usually, but like,
absolutely,
you've carved out a vertical, and it's a bigger vertical than some people are like. I only do strategy games, and I'm going to be the best at talking about strategy games. And when you're a multi-purpose person, you have to be specific in that multiple purpose. Like,
yeah, and I think the question there is like, do I actually have to be, and what actually am I pursuing?
Right.
And so like as that now that I'm devoting Fridays to ranking 8-bit Nintendo games, as opposed to producing content about new releases. And at first that was actually really scary in a weird way, because like, oh man, I'm going to be like less informed about new releases because there's going to be less time I'm going to be making this and doing that. And I was like, oh, you know what? Actually, I don't give a shit. And this stuff is way more fun, and people seem to like it way more. And a lot of the stuff I do about new releases, like, people just don't watch that. I mean, the podcast is a really great way for me to talk about that stuff, but like individual videos about new releases don't always like hit or whatever.
Right.
And so it's just it's refinding that line and trying to figure out like, what the fuck am I doing, and what is the best way to use that time. And so I chose Tron, and I feel like that was the right decision, both because it was a game I very much wanted to play, whereas Death Stranding was already, kind of repellent after my initial time with it. And I spent time doing that, and that was cool and fun. And so I don't know, like that's the to answer the question of like, how has that changed for me? It's like it changes every week, because I'm just trying to make the best call I can about like, how should I spend my time this week? And sometimes that's informed by family stuff that comes up or whatever else, like when the baby doesn't sleep well and she sleeps in the office, she sleeps in front of the television that the PlayStation is hooked up to. So no Death Stranding gets played when things like that occur. So
right.
There's weird stuff like that. There's just like logistics nonsense. But I don't know. It's like I have not touched Nightreign. Like, people were like, "Are you gonna do an Elden Ring Nightreign video?" I was like, "No, I don't." Like, I didn't really care about Elden Ring all that much, and I didn't. I did not contact Namco and go, "Hey, could you send me a copy of this?" Because I just knew that it wasn't something that I was going to like actively pursue. Mm-hmm. I'm interested in it, of course. I'm interested in most things, but I don't. But I knew it was not something I was going to like actively like spend a ton of time on trying to get a review up before the embargo or like any of that other stuff.
Right.
So it was just like, whatever. I can, if that's something I want to play, I can check it out post release. It's fine. And so yeah, I don't know. It's making a lot of calls like that and deciding what games are going to be the games that I'm going to actually play and the reasons for them. Those reasons were always out of my hands for a very long time. It was just like, this is the right thing to do. This is the thing to do. I'm going to review this because this person's reviewing this and this person's reviewing this. So I have to take this, this, and this. And then just the work would get distributed, and that would be that.
Yep.
And so it just was extremely automatic, or out of my hands, because the remit was review all these fucking video games. I'm like, okay, I can do that. And so now that I'm very much not in that space to that level, and I don't think anyone is anymore, honestly, it's weird, and it feels weird for me all the time. You have no idea how many times I'm like arguing with myself about like, oh, I should really be playing this fucking game. It's like, shit, I don't want to play this fucking game.
Right.
I was like, well, is it interesting for me to say I don't want to play this fucking game? And what, that aspect of it is really, it is like genuinely really fucking hard for me, like mentally to like get to figure that out sometimes. I mean, you were in this for a while and experienced like a different version of that, because I think we were not super deep in the reviews game, but it was like, hey, get this quick look ready or whatever. Like, how have you? I mean, you say I actually don't watch trailers very often either, because I just don't find them, like
yeah.
I know if I'm going to play a game, yes or no, based on like, oh, that's a. Someone asked me the other day, like, are you excited about Ghost of Yote? And I was like, sure. Excited's a weird word. Like, I will play that game.
Yeah.
I think like I liked the previous one of those quite a bit. I'm very interested to see what they do next. I will play that game. Am I like every day going like, oh, they put out new screenshots? Like, no.
Right. Like,
I don't follow
nothing,
anything like
they're
that.
not doing anything different enough that you would see in a trailer and be like, what the hell? Like, it's going to be that game that iterated upon with some little tweaks and twists here and there, and like
yeah. And I think I'm very interested in that because I liked the previous one of those. But like so many games come out every week, the idea of like devoting a lot of brain space to a game that's out months from now, you go, oh, I can't wait for that to come out. Like that's not the job I had for the years I had it broke me on anything close to that. It's just like, okay, this game's what's coming out next? What's coming out? Okay, this is out now. Okay, I need to focus on this right now. That I can wait 2 more months to even think about.
Right.
And so that's kind of just that's how I still approach a lot of that stuff.
At this point, for me, I'm mostly a social gamer. I don't play a lot of single player anymore. So it's really like, what are my friends getting into? Like, the last single player game I bought was Monster Train 2 because I wanted a Steam Deck, like, lay on the couch and play a run of something kind of game, right? And so, like, it's different because my job isn't games. So I have the luxury of being able to be more just completely following my whims on something. But I am, I follow games to the extent of, like, I want to see what's popular. I want to, like, I'll play games that my friends are into, even if I don't quite enjoy them myself. And it's nice in scenarios like that because, and I think something that happens to you still too, is you can be like surprised by something that you normally wouldn't be. So you want to leave yourself open to be like, occasionally I'll take a risk. Occasionally I'll get something that's a little bit out of my comfort zone that I don't think I would gel with normally. But like maybe like somebody whose opinion you really trusted were like, no, like, trust me, check this out. Or like you do watch a trailer or something and you're like, oh, I've always been curious about these kinds of games and maybe this is finally the one that's going to hook me. So I think as long as you keep like part of that alive, then you can use the rest of your brain to be more analytical and clinical about what you're doing.
Yeah, there was a game that and I think the thing that happens nowadays is that so many games come out all the time that you just it's hard to hear about it. Like the discovering games and all of that can be very difficult. Like there's a game called Cauldron that's on Steam. That I think Bryn pointed out and said, hey, you should probably check this out. And it's it's like a turn-based kind of RPG style combat game set against these mini games that are very kind of one of them's a bit like Kaboom for the 2600. There's one that's like Ridiculous Fishing and so it's like these mini games feed into resources that you use to upgrade this thing to uncover the map, and there's like a bunch of different modes in it where like you can automate the role-playing game style combat in favor of more idle game mechanics, or like there's things you can kind of swap out and place in. And it's the sort of thing that I think if I had looked at it on Steam, I would have been like, whatever. Yeah. And probably not given it a the trailer or the screenshots would have been like, okay. But because it came with a recommendation from someone I trust, it was like, okay, I mean, I'll give this a look, and ended up spending way too much fucking time. like finished it 3 different ways. Like you can play it in like a harder mode or like an idle mode or whatever. I think I finished it in 2 of the 6 modes, and came very close on a 3rd. And ended up getting like super deep into it. That's not to say it is like an amazing game and everyone needs to play Cauldron, but it was just a very specific thing. I ended up doing a video with it and showed it off back when it was coming out. And it's really neat.
Yeah. It's something
it's worth checking out.
You would have never like actively made the decision of like looking at a list of new releases and been like, oh, Cauldron's the game.
And I think that's even harder with like, so I get tons of press releases every day. Like that aspect of this line of work has only gotten crazier because there are just more and more games coming out all the time.
Yeah. And
so it's like every day I'm getting stuff like, hey, do you want a key for a demo for a game? I'm like, no, like that's before I have to think about it. Like, I don't even necessarily play a ton of demos. Like, just, think of me when the game's coming out or whatever. But I'll get a ton of press releases for games that are like, and the press releases make them all sound the same. Not to be like overly reductive, but you get in these ruts of just like, yeah, this game's got you can do some farming in it, and you can also, maybe you'll fall in love, and you're like, yeah, okay, yeah, but there's a dungeon. You're like, of course there is, and there are so many games that hit my inbox every day that, like, just the pitches. Sometimes the pitches are super funny bad, and there used to be a Tumblr called "Why I Deleted Your Promo Email." And it was someone who was like a music journalist, and it was just like the line in the press release or something that made them just go fuck and delete it and move on. Like, there are I see so many of those where I'm just like, whatever, okay, and move on to the next email. That I think there could be a really funny one of those for games, but you would have to be kind of an asshole to run it. So I'm not
You'd have
going to do that.
One, you're on your way out.
Yeah. But like, there are so many different pitches that come in for games, and so many games coming out all the time that I think it's impossible for the largest outlets in the world to stay on top of it. Like the IGNs can't do this the way that they used to either. So I pick and choose, and I try not to just pick and choose based on games I like. I try to like pick and choose based on a healthy amount of that, and also a healthy amount of like games that I think look interesting in a way that might not normally speak to me, but maybe should be something people know about or whatever. And sometimes that's the part that doesn't work out. Is on a lark, you go and you're like, okay, I'm going to spend a few hours playing this thing, and you're like, there's nothing about this worth talking about. And that time is basically gone, but at least I know about that now, and whatever. But yeah, it's weird. I don't know. Like, I'm broken in a lot of ways. Also, is kind of the other part of this, just from doing that job for as many years as I did.
Right.
Like,
I don't think anyone could do this job for that many years and not have it taken.
Yeah. I mean, the way I approach and play games is so fucking strange nowadays. Like, it's just, it kind of just comes with the territory to a certain extent, but I don't know, works for me. Shop writes in, do you think Sony regrets buying Bungie? At the time, it felt like a knee-jerk reaction purchase due to the Microsoft Activision acquisition. Also, do you think Microsoft would have bought them if Sony didn't? So I'm going to say 2 of your 3 sentences here are off base. I don't think that Sony was a knee-jerk purchase because, well, they bought Activision, we better buy Bungie. I mean,
big corporations that big don't do knee-jerk.
Yeah, and the acquisition environment was very different then, in a way that led to a lot of this stuff, whether it was interest rates or what have you. And also the state of Bungie and where they were at as a company, and like a lot of those things. I don't think Microsoft would have bought them if Sony didn't, because Microsoft was already out acquiring other stuff and getting into antitrust legislation and courts and everything. They would not have been able to successfully execute that. Do I think that Sony regrets buying Bungie? I don't know I don't know how much they paid for it, but maybe a little.
I'm sure this marathon kerfuffle doesn't help.
Yeah. I mean, after all this stuff, it's not a good situation. And I think that Sony, with the way they framed it initially, and when they started talking about the other kind of live service stuff they wanted to pursue, a lot of that talk was predicated, or a lot of that talk was kind of, it came along with, well, we've acquired experts in the space, and so Bungie can help us out there too by vetting and helping us out with all of these other games that we're looking at, and they can be a good guidance there. But the Bungie leadership is what it is, and there's been a lot of stuff thrown their way. And And I don't think that that's worked out for them. I think that this was maybe a bad bet for them at the live service game level as opposed to the Bungie acquisition level, you know?
Right.
And I don't know that they're necessarily organized in such a way that like they were able to ever truly take advantage of Bungie's expertise in the space, if you want to call it that. I mean, they, you know, Destiny has had a pretty rocky run. A lot of ups, more ups than downs, I would say, with that game. But you know, they've hit some low points with that thing as well. But I think they've taken a fair number of Bungie people and centralized them under this new central, like Sony set up a new kind of central services division, and some of the Bungie people that are no longer at Bungie are there instead. And, you know, able to provide those types of services for a larger number of games. And so, like, the thing they wanted of, like, here's some people who can work on a variety of live service games and help vet this stuff, like, that's theoretically what they're getting out of it. But, you know, none of that has really borne a great deal of fruit because none of those games have shipped. And the ones that did were, like, conquered. And that didn't do well.
Right.
You know, Helldivers 2, I think, was already kind of on its way to being what it was before a lot of that stuff got involved. So I don't know that would have benefited from this. And I don't know. I like the idea of Bungie, and I'm curious to see what they. Because I don't know if you follow it, but like, yeah, the marathon art thing happened,
yep.
And then they just kind of officially delayed the game, like last week.
Did they give a date, or was it
so
just?
It was a funny thing where Sony had like a business-oriented, like earnings call type of thing, and in that was the first acknowledgement of it. They said Marathon's going to ship this fiscal year, which means it could ship right up until the end of next March.
Yes.
Meanwhile, the game already had a date of like September 23rd or something that they just kind of ignored. And so like a couple of days later, Bungie issued a thing saying like, yeah, the game's not coming out on time. And they didn't say anything about the fiscal year or the release window or anything like that. They just said, we'll be back in the fall with more information on that. But presumably they would not lie in the business call. So I assume that means that they are still planning on putting it out this fiscal year.
Right.
But yeah, man, it's a mess. Imagine, like, imagine working on that game and doing like a ton of honest work on it.
Wait, am I on the art team?
Sure.
Am I the?
But you are maybe not the artist who did all of that and then was no longer at the company anymore. Right. Like the amount of work that has gotten dragged down by this is fucking crazy.
Because it's usually when you're like in this scenario and you're working hard for a thing and then hardships come, it's because of like a stupid decision by some C-level asshole who has no idea what you're actually doing, right? Like,
right.
That happens. That's expected when you're working in a big creative company like that your work is going to get hamstrung by somebody making a decision and shifting some money around.
Yeah.
But this is pretty unique that it just came from a fuck up.
I mean, that's the story, is that, you know, someone on that team fucked up real bad, and they didn't have a approach. You know, this is the sort of thing that has kind of like happened to them before, but it's like, on one hand, there's a pattern, and you go, well, fuck them. There's a pattern here, but also the pattern is not a, you know, like these situations are unique enough that you just go like, all right, this is not. I don't think this is Bungie's MO as a company of a thing they want to do and try to get away with. I mean, no one's that fucking stupid. And yeah, I don't know. It's a bummer, but also like art aside, it's funny because the art was the one thing I liked about that game. The rest of it, you know, when they were doing that beta, it was like, okay, I think the structure of this game is not great, and I think that there's a lot of stuff that you're trying to build here that I don't think is going to pan out into an exciting game that will punch through the noise and last. But boy, the art sure looks awesome. And now it's like, okay, well, now they may very well be changing that art style completely from the sounds of some of the stuff they said about it. And to their credit, I guess they're also saying like, yeah, there's some stuff about the game that needs to change too. Like we need to maybe
because the initial feedback was relatively mixed.
Yeah, yes, there were definitely some people who were into what it was doing, but I feel like most of the reaction I saw to it was like muted enthusiasm at best. It was like, yeah, there's something here, but also this.
Like
this,
a lot
this.
of like, this is really what Bungie's next thing is? Okay.
Right. Yeah. Or like, is Bungie going to be the company to finally crack the nut on the big mainstream extraction shooter and it's going to be the biggest game in the world? And you play it and you're like, oh, no, I don't think I no longer think that they're going to maybe do that.
But the shooting's real good.
Shooting's fine, but I don't think that this is something that's going to appeal to a large number of people, ultimately.
Right.
And that's what I came away with it. Going like, I don't think this is a game for me. But on top of that, I don't think this is going to be a long-term successful video game in this form. So, I don't know, man. It's crazy. That whole thing. What a fucking mess.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take like one more email here. You're one of the youths. You're a young man. This question is maybe more for you. Do you think that gyro aiming will ever be widely adopted? This is from Daddy Warbuck. It says gyro aiming on the Switch really did a lot to solve issues of aiming with a controller. I still very much prefer a mouse, but gyro aiming was a very good in-between in Zelda and Splatoon. Do you think gyro aiming would ever come to other consoles? Will I ever be able to adjust my aim in Call of Duty by tilting my DualShock? Gyro aiming isn't as good as something like the Pro Controller compared to a dual Joy-Con setup, but it was a lot better than just using the stick.
Well, the best version of Resident Evil 4 is the Wii one where you point the Wiimote at the screen like a gun.
Well, there you go.
So it is possible.
Yeah, it was always the thing that held me back in Splatoon, was the expectation that you were to be using some form of gyro controls to do fine aim. And you can do, like this 8BitDo controller I have, and most controllers I have at this point have gyros in them. And so on PC, there's a lot of work you can do to configure that stuff. Or like, even in something like Call of Duty, I think you can set it up so as soon as you aim down sights, it activates gyro aiming.
Yeah, I think that's how it was in like Zelda too. You would like cock your arrow and then you could...
Right, and so you can sort of play it that way, or like, you can change the sensitivity to a point where it's like you're doing most of your aiming with the right stick, but you're doing refinement with the gyro. I don't hold the controller steady enough to ever fucking do that. I am moving around a lot while I play, and I'm not going like, or whatever, steering the controller around like some kind of weird kid, but like. But also, like, I shift around on a couch or on any surface a lot in a way that moves the controller.
Yeah.
So, the kind of constant, like, oh, you're not calibrated for the position you're in anymore or whatever was always, like, a weird issue for games that had full-time gyro aiming. Like, it never worked for me for a variety of reasons.
I agree with that. I'm in a similar place. I know it's different, but I think if VR had taken off in a way bigger way, there might be more of a push to have a similar feeling aiming experience on non-VR games, right? Like I can imagine if, like, let's say VR does blow up and then there's like a good Call of Duty for VR, right? And then suddenly now in their next console version, they're like, and it has that aiming style you know and love, that like more gyro. It's not quite gyro aiming exactly in the console sense, but it's closer to that then.
I could see something like that, but it just doesn't. I don't know, like I'm not even really sure, because the take on it used to be that, like, oh, kids love gyro aiming and they're the future of this, and so it's just going to catch on naturally because it's I'm not sure that that's actually the case anymore. If people are playing a bunch of Fortnite with flick sticks and all this other crazy shit, some people are into that. I think some of that was born out, if I'm not mistaken, I think some of that was born out of like, well, we need to do this because we're also trying to build a fort in the middle of this gunfight, and so we need to be able to navigate and turn around and do all this stuff.
Right.
But
I think kids are way more obsessed with touch and tapping now, right? Like iPads and...
Or yeah, maybe, but like I think you have these cases like, you know, whatever Roblox stuff that is not necessarily dependent on gyro aiming in the first place. Right. And so I don't know. Like there's aspects of that for sure, but I'd be curious what the percentage breakdown is of like people that are playing games on mobile that are using controller shells, and how many people are using just straight up touchscreen controls for something like Fortnite or the, you know, the Call of Duty mobile stuff, or even like PUBG or whatever. Because that's kind of where a lot of that stuff seemed like it was coming in, was like, oh, I need to touch to swipe to do a quick 180 because I've got someone behind me or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know that stuff necessarily, like, it feels like similar concepts across multiple controlled schemes and devices that don't necessarily line up.
Right.
You know, that you can't necessarily point to it and go, gyro controls are huge. It's more just like, some of these alternative control schemes that allow for faster turning than a right stick on an analog controller would allow, something closer to a mouse rate of turning. Like there's stuff like that has value in a competitive setting for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a weird one.
They should have gyro controls for fighting games where you kind of like shake your controller around to punch and kick. If you do like a quarter circle in real life.
Yeah. I mean, what if you did it with your hand? What if you just stepped into the Sega activator and just got into the ring and punched and kicked and did all your stuff there? I mean, that's the ultimate in reality.
Last time I stepped into a ring, it was to get fit. So, like, I think I'm ready.
Yeah, exactly. They did. I mean, that was all. I feel like the talk for the longest time for the Wii was like, no, dude, there's, you know, you're gonna do, and they did. There was the what Street Fighter? They did a first-person Street Fighter thing that had motion controls at some point.
Yeah,
I want to say, was that a VR thing? Fawful in the chat says Ultra Street Fighter 2 for the Switch maybe had something. Maybe had something for that, like a first-person mode. But there was something in there where they were expecting you to kind of do fucking motions, but but it never really. I remember that not working super well.
But do it good is my take.
Good idea. Yeah, I like that. I like the plan. They should do it, but they should do it good. Of course. Why didn't we think of this? They tried. There were a couple of instances of trying to do fighting style things in VR, but I remember every time I tried them, they were fucking terrible. Like boxing and stuff maybe made some sense in VR, and there's been some success there, but like actual like fighting game concepts, yeah, I don't know. Someone could figure that out, but no one would care. But that would be a cool visual at EVO. Main stage, just people putting on their fucking headsets and just with gladiators entering the arena, like all that stupid shit. Yeah.
Ow.
Just doing this and yelling Sonic Boom. If you had to, you it would also have to have microphone support. You would need to have to yell it to make the move come out, I think.
You'd also have to... It'd be tricky if you were a Dulcim main.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd have to get some extra sensors or trackers for that to work. Anyway, we can figure that out next time. Ben Pack, thanks for coming by the show.
Jeff, thank you for having me. Always a pleasure.
Yeah. Where can people find you on the internet? Do you want people to find you on the internet? I don't know.
I mean, I'm on Blue Sky. It's fun there. Everyone's chill. Follow me on Twitch, Glenn Tennis. I'm going to start streaming again because I suddenly have more free time. So
nice.
Who knows? I'll play some Kingsfield after I finish Dark Souls.
Yes. A lot of people, like, I think in the run up to Elden Ring is when people finally like rediscovered Kingsfield. And it was, as someone who was reviewing games when Kingsfield came out, it was very surreal to see people trying to
like the people like are like, oh, the prequels are actually good.
Yeah.
When I was there in 6th grade watching those prequels, and even as a 6th grader, I was like, this is not good.
Yeah. And I was.
Oh, that's me. Somebody put me in the chat. Yep, there I am.
I was in my 20s when those prequels were coming out, and I was 19. I mean, it was 1999, right?
Yeah.
So I was 24 when that thing came out, and fuck those prequels.
Agreed. We watched the third one in theaters for that like 15-year anniversary or whatever, and it was really fun seeing it in a big group of people laughing at it.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that holding some appeal. What did you all stand up and yell "chicken jockey" at the appropriate time?
No, we all yelled, "Do it!"
Okay, good. Back next week with another edition of this podcast, and of course I'll be around tomorrow streaming some stuff. We'll figure something out. I don't know. I don't think I can stream Death Stranding 2 yet because it's Thursday night. It's like a Friday release, like a normal. Anyway, I need to go check. I know the embargo is up, but maybe the game is not actually out. Anyway, but we'll figure something out for Wednesday, and then of course Friday I'll rank some more 8-bit Nintendo games. Well, maybe we'll get some good ones this week. Uncharted Waters is on the list.
What's
that? Which is a strategy game about boats.
Ooh, like
from
Battleship?
your friends at Koei. No, not quite Battleship. Battleship, that'd be nice.
Did you ever end up watching Battleship?
Like the movie?
Yeah, I remember you posting about wanting to maybe watch it.
I should.
Matt Rory did some Battleship posting that made me think about Battleship again.
Yeah, Matt Rory, I think, is a great go-to source for Battleship. I remember even at the time of its release, he had some things to say about that film.
It's fun.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it would be. It seems like it would be a great time. I don't know. The movie I want to watch. I threaten this every week, not every week, but the remake or reboot or what you want to call it of Roadhouse.
Oh, the Gyllenhaal one?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Like, I don't know how much of a TikTok user you are, but I see clips of that movie on TikTok constantly, and every single clip is fucking gold. Every single one I see is just like, this looks like an amazing fucking movie. Holy shit. I need to fucking see this. It just looks incredible. It just looks fucking great. It's like him fucking shooting a dead cop's body. Yeah, Conor McGregor's in it. He's fucking beating people up outside a bar and just like nonchalantly asking people, like, is there a hospital nearby? Because they're gonna, okay, yeah, all right, great. Oh yeah, let's do this. And just like in this like very fucking dismissive, like Jake Gyllenhaal seems fucking incredible in it. From his just nonchalance the entire time about violence, because he's meant to be like an ex-fighter or something.
He has PTSD or something.
Yeah, so he's just like, whatever, man. Yeah, all right, let's do this. I'll break your arm 9 different ways. I don't care. It just looks fucking amazing. So I need to see that. That's my greatest movie of the 21st century.
Right.
In waiting.
1 through 10.
1 through 10. That one, no. It's 9. Is that 9 times in Tokyo Drift? Yeah. All right. Be back next week with more stuff. Have a good one, everybody. And we'll see you this end.